Welcome to the program today. We are glad you are with us. The Bill Michaels Show is on the air, and we are just enjoying ourselves today. Today's kind of a hump day type of thing, and you've got, conversations regarding the Packers and whether or not they're going to franchise tag Aaron Jones. Now that you're not bringing in J.J. Watt, I mean, what will you spend the money on Jones knowing you have in him? Or would you rather spend the money on free agents to bolster your defense? I mean, that becomes the question, I think, when you start to look. I don't know how they're going to fit all this in under a cap in which they have not done a lot of restructuring as of right now, but it's an interesting quandary. And you've got other sports going on. You got the Bucks falling. You got the Badgers falling again. Look, played hard, but just didn't do enough in the end to get the win. And you can talk about teams playing hard all the time, but ultimately you're not winning basketball games. And that's what it comes down to, which was disappointing. You've got UWM. Hey, they advanced in the Horizon League tournament. There's a positive. Marquette got a win as well. But beyond that, our world of sports right now as we effort towards March Madness is a little bit disappointing. Marquette's not going to be there. The Badgers, they are, to say they're limping in at this point would be an underestimation. I don't know which direction the Packers are going to go. They're not tipping their hand. I like what I heard yesterday out of Joe Barry. I don't think that fishing for 5 hours over an ice hole necessarily makes you a Wisconsinite, but I appreciate the effort. That I will say. This portion of the program brought to you by good friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. So glad to have you on board today. Got a lot of interesting stuff. I had a great yesterday. Had a great meeting. I was out at Wisconsin Harley Davidson, and I finally, I believe, I have found the bike. I thought I had it. I was going to do the black denim with the blackout package, and I like the denim. It looks great coming off of the showroom floor, but denim is not easy to take care of. It's kind of the flat black paint, the flat paint, if you know what I'm talking about. So yesterday I was out there, and I found a bluish purple black combination with a blackout package, and already has pipes on it, the whole thing. I'm pretty excited. So today, I have to admit, as much as I'm into watching the saga that is Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and whether or not the Packers are going to franchise tag Aaron Jones, and I'm looking at all the NFL stuff. You've got Tiger. They are asking for Tiger's black box in the Genesis that he was driving. Police are trying to check the black box to determine if there was a, quote, crime committed. But if you believe there was a crime, that's how you get to actually get a warrant for the black box. If you don't believe there was a crime to begin with, I don't understand the whole thing. When you talk about was there a crime committed, are they looking for a crime now after saying there wasn't one, that it was just an accident? Now they're looking for a crime. The crime was probably speeding, texting. That's the worst two things that you could probably get out of this, because you already confirmed he wasn't drinking. He wasn't under the influence of drugs in any way, shape, or form. So was a different type of crime committed? Well, the crime was probably speeding. Okay, on that particular road, it's known for speeding, but yet they're asking for the black box, which I don't fully understand at this point in time, but nevertheless. Then you've got the news in Washington that they are, after all the controversy, all the lawsuits, the sexual harassment, Washington football team going without cheerleaders now. They're going to join the ranks of the Green Bay Packers and not have cheerleaders, at least for 1 year. So they're not going to do that. So it's just a lot of stuff. It's like you take everything, you throw it into a bag, and you shake it up, and then you just reach in, you pull something out, and that's what your topic du jour is, or that's what your topic of the moment is. You know? I know I have received a lot of emails regarding the transgender discussion. I don't do a lot of politics in that particular sense, because it tends to be more political than it does anything else. I get it. It's not something that I really want to delve into, and I wanted to at the very least address it. I don't know what the fairness is in today's day and age, we have, like I said yesterday, the pendulum has swung so far over to the level of sensitivity. We have gone from the what's good for one is the best possible path rather than what's good for the masses. So I don't know what, even keel answer there is to this. I know that Bonnie Blair Cruikshank has spoken out on this, and I find the argument fascinating. I find it also very sensible to a certain extent on both sides, but ultimately I don't have the answers for this, and it just becomes more of an argument than anything. I've always said this show should sound like adults in a bar talking sports. That's what it should be. I mean, that's ultimately what sports talk radio should be. Sports talk radio, good, enjoyable radio, should be just that. It should be the ability for you from teen to 65 to be able to converse and talk. And, I know 18-year-olds necessarily aren't hanging out in bars. I get that. But you get what the premise is. So this becomes almost like politics. It becomes a dividing line. It becomes a hatred line. And I'll be honest with you, in today's day and age, if you say anything at all, one way or the other, you're an ist. You're a racist, you're a homophobist, you're a transgenderist, you're whatever it happens to be, you're ist. You can't have an opinion anymore, or you're a hater. So on one side or the other. So for stuff like that, unless it's absolutely positively pertinent to something we are discussing, I just kind of keep it out of the program. So I know there's a lot of people that wrote me about that overnight, and I thought about this a lot today. But I thought, you know what? We got other things to discuss, So if it becomes prevalent and there's enough people chiming in, then maybe. But we got a lot of other things to discuss. But I do appreciate people looking to discuss certain aspects of this. So anyway, that being said, so I'm just trying to let you know there's so many things to delve into today. So many things. I just wanted to kind of start off the show that way today. So the Green Bay Packers, there is this consideration now that J.J. Watt is off the market. There's a little bit of money you would believe. You're going to get Aaron Jones at an absolute freaking bargain at $8.5 million a year. Why not franchise? I get it. Would you do it? Would you do it? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Now, you have to understand, if you do that, you're going to have a tremendous three-headed monster, or at least a two-headed monster in running backs, okay? A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones. That would, in all likelihood, mean that you don't retain Jamal Williams, okay? So, do you go in that direction and then say, we are spending our money on the running back position, you have very little money left over, seemingly, for a good cover corner, additional defensive line depth, or a linebacker, or an additional pass rusher, in that area. So, and again, you're looking at some June 1st cuts, probably like a Preston Smith, Devin Funchess, Dean Lowry, in that area. So what would you do if you're the general manager of this football team? What do you covet more? Might be the best way to put it. What do you covet more? Do you covet more the running back position and spending your money there on a proven commodity, or do you covet bolstering this defense, something that we have been complaining about in different levels of complaining for quite some time? Tell me the last time this defense was smash mouth really good. You probably go back to the year they won the Super Bowl, and even then they weren't smash mouth. They were good. B.J. Raji, Cullen Jenkins, C.J. Wilson, Howard Green, they had beef up front. It was tough to run against them. Ryan Pickett. Remember, I'll never forget Ryan Pickett. I was interviewing him in the locker room. It was the Wednesday practice before they got ready to go on the road. Remember, the first game was against Philadelphia, and then Atlanta, and then the Bears, and then they ended up going to the Super Bowl. So they're getting ready to go to Philadelphia, a very tough place to play. And I had said at the time to Ryan Pickett, I'm like, look, you're kind of the grizzled veteran here. Give me your thoughts as a defense going on the road and what you're about to go into. Remember, Philadelphia, not an easy place to play, okay? And he said, and I'll never forget, he smiled. and he had that big beard. He smiled. He big, chunky, big Buddha-like individual. He's sitting in his locker. He rubs his beard, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to get these guys to eat booze and hatred like candy, and we can't get enough of it. It's something that's sweet. It's good. That means they hate what you are. They hate what you're doing. And if you're doing it really well, they're going to hate you even more." And I'll never forget that. So when you put all of that together with Ryan Pickett, B.J. Raji, Howard Green, C.J. Wilson, Cullen Jenkins, and those 5 big, beefy individuals up front, and then you had A.J. Hawk playing, because of the beef up front, pretty much his best season ever. You had Clay Matthews coming on the edge. You had Nick Collins, Rome in the middle, playing the safety, Charles Woodson, Defensive Player of the Year, and up-and-coming Tramon Williams, Sam Shields, guys in the secondary. And you look at that team and you're like, wow. That was probably the last, and they weren't even smash mouth. They were an opportunistic team. They could stuff the run and become opportunistic in the secondary because of the pass rush and the quality of veteran that they had back there in Charles Woodson. So they became better that way. So again, not a smash mouth defense, not a defense that they were just going to stuff you, that they were going to say, bring it. We are going to knock you on your ass. Come across the middle, you're going down. Go deep, you're going down. Run the ball, we're going to beat the hell out of you. We haven't had a defense like that in a long time. And we've been complaining about it for a long time. So do you put the money into the running back position in Aaron Jones? And I think Aaron Jones is going to be wildly missed in that backfield if they lose him. So I'm kind of going against my own philosophy. But defensively speaking, would you rather put the money into the defense? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Again, 877-867-1670. Follow us over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels. At Bill_Michaels. Answer the questions there at Bill_Michaels, Michaels. Facebook fan page. You can watch the live stream. You can chime in there as well. Simply The Bill Michaels Show on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. YouTube and Twitch TV. You can follow the live stream there as well. Listen to the program also. Simply Bill Michaels, Michaels. That's how you get a hold of us. I want to get back to all of this. I want to get your questions and your thoughts and your emails and phone calls and such. I want to get to all the stuff coming across over right now on the live stream feed as well. For all of you chiming in, stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show next.
In Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad you are with us on this Wednesday. Certainly appreciate you being here. A lot of people chiming in whether or not they would go in the direction of a running back and spend the money on franchise tagging Aaron Jones or get into getting deeper when it comes to your depth on the defensive side of the football. Chris says, good morning, Kinger. Would Jones sit if the Packers tag him? He might. I don't know. I have not. I know they wouldn't be happy, but I really. It's tell me somebody that has sat out an entire season that it's benefited. You know, you let a year of football go by. He may not be happy, but if it bolsters my team, I don't care. You know, now if he swears he's going to sit out, if he is not absolutely positively going to come back to your team, then yeah, you let him go. But there's a lot of guys that threaten, and then there's a lot of guys that would not do it. Yeah, we're going to sit out, and then all of a sudden they show up in camp. You know, I think you have to feel them out. You have to feel them out. Ronald says, need the defense first. It's not going to make Rodgers happy, but you cannot expect him to put up 30-plus points per game every game. I agree. If signing Jones takes away from reinforcing the defense, I would not do it. That is from Brett. Ronald also says, you're only going to franchise tag him if you're serious about extending him. My buddy Dwayne says, good morning. Happy for you on the motorcycle. Do you find that the Packers should be making a call to Kyle Rudolph? I've said all along, I would love to see Kyle Rudolph. He's a touchdown machine. I would love to see him in green and gold. And the fact that he would be going from the Minnesota Vikings in the division with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's 31 years old and experienced. Maybe you pick him up and still bring back Robert Tonyan and let Mercedes Lewis go. Those two guys alone, and you don't have to worry about Jay Sternberger. Those two guys would become unbelievably formidable. That is an attractive thing to me. Yes. I don't know what it's going to cost you. That's the problem. I don't know what it's going to cost you on the open market. So I don't know if you have that kind of money available. But I'll be biased. Kyle Rudolph played at my high school. So I know him a little bit. Had him on the show. He's actually doing a benefit concert this year. One of his buddies is Darius Rucker. And there was a fundraiser for the high school that they were going to do because they were raising money for the athletic department. And, a long story short, I mean, the high school is a Catholic high school. It's a private high school. It's pretty strong when it comes to the football community in the state of Wisconsin, or in the state of Ohio. But they wanted to raise $5 million for a new facility for workouts and lockers and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing, this high school, the amount of it, and it's landlocked. That's the funny thing about it. It's landlocked in the kind of the inner city now. But a donor had passed and left, I think, like $10 million. So now they're going to do a fundraiser, and the fundraiser is just going to go to charity. But he's doing that at the Pit, which is my old high school stadium, and it's really cool. So I had him on to talk a little bit about that last year, and then obviously COVID kicked in, and they didn't get a chance to do it. So they're hoping to do it again this year. But I would bring in Kyle Rudolph. I think he's still a quality tight end. A quality tight end. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Marcus writes, Kyle Rudolph, no, but I would bring in a good quality defensive back. You need one to fill the Kevin King spot. You put another lockdown corner next to Jair Alexander, becomes the best secondary in football. 100% agree. Now, is that Peterson? Do you bring in an aging veteran like a Richard Sherman? We've talked about both of those guys before. You know, who would you bring in the defensive backfield as a free agent that is going to be the 2 to Jair Alexander's 1? 877-867-1670. Coming up after the bottom of the hour, going to hear from Matt LaFleur and his presser yesterday, because we were going to play that yesterday, didn't get a chance to. It came late in the day, so we're going to play it for you today, so you get a chance to listen to what Matt LaFleur had to say. But it's interesting when you listen to how he talks about communication. He specifically talks about the defense. It seems like there's a real emphasis there. Let's see here. This is from Jenny. Says, no, we're not going to do the inbox. If you're saying that you're all in, wouldn't you try to do both? You could, yes. You could. I don't know. Again, this depends on what you are. This depends on what you are going to end up being able to spend, because you can't. Gutekunst has to know the ballpark of which he's going to have to work with, right? You have to. You have to. Because you have to know the amount of money. You have to know what restructure is going to happen. Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Zadarius Smith? Is it going to be somebody else? You know your cuts that are coming up. You know about the money you're going to have to work with. And you know you need anywhere from $7 to $9 million, I think, in that area, if I'm not mistaken, for your rookies. For the rookies you're going to bring in. So you take out what you think you're going to have, minus the $7 to $9 million, whatever, and that's what you have left to spend. It's not a lot of money. So if you're going to give somebody $8 million, $6 million, I mean, if you want to spread that out over 3-4 players of quality ilk, you're not going to have a lot of money. You're just not. 877-867-1670. Again, 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. If you want to chime in, give us a shout. Anthony writes, there's no way I'm going to pay $8.5 million to Aaron Jones. Even at a bargain, I would like to spend $4 to $5 million on 3 or 4 different players. Well, see, $5 million on 4 players is $20 million. Do the math. I don't think you're going to have that much. So if you spend $8.5 on Aaron Jones, you're probably down to maybe a total of $10 million tops left. If you do if you did everything we did restructuring wise and cut wise, then you're probably looking at about $26 million under the cap, minus, we'll just say 8. So you're down to, do the math, you're down to $18 million. You give $8 million to Aaron Jones, 8.5, you're down to $9.5 million. That's going to get you 2, 3 players of probably aging status, hoping to catch lightning in a bottle on 1, maybe max 2-year deals. So You can still fill some holes. I'm not saying you can't, but you're not gonna, because everybody's got an opinion. You know, you need a lockdown cover corner. Great. You need another linebacker. Great. You need a beefy offensive or defensive lineman. Great. You need to find Veldy or a couple of the other guys that are out there when it comes to the players of the Green Bay Packers to bolster the offensive line. You know, so you got to be able to go out and find those guys. So Lane Taylor, you're going to go buy a Lane Taylor and keep him. I mean, just every $1 million, $2 million you spend, you're eating away at that. You're not going to get as much as I think we would like. This was from John. John says, I would give a lot of money to a lockdown cover corner, try to find beefy defensive linemen in the draft, and then hope that some of your players play into their second and third years. Chris says, I think if we retain Jones, the offense is still in a good position. Losing Lindsley will sting. We need a defensive presence, though. Losing Lindsley is going to sting. That's going to hurt you. So that's why we talked about that relationship between the quarterback and the center. The center being as much of a physical presence. The center needs to be twice as smart. Because you are the one calling out the blocking assignments. You're the one that, when Aaron Rodgers sees 11 or 12 men on the field, one guy running off, you're the one that comes to the line, snaps your hands, bam, snaps the football to Aaron Rodgers. You got to see it too. You got to be that way. Because remember, I mean, everybody talks about Aaron Rodgers is so smart. Yeah, but the center is the guy snapping the ball. He's got to be just as attentive, just as in sync with the quarterback. So the loss of Corey Linsley may cost you a couple of times throughout the season for what we've seen Aaron Rodgers capable of doing, just because of that symbiotic relationship those two guys have. Also, it says Jenkins can play all over, but there's only one of him. You're right. You're right. Which means you would assume that John Runyon's going to get some playing time as well, right? Probably going to get some John Runyon time. Let's do this. We're going to step away, and when we come back, I want you to hear what Matt LaFleur had to say. Okay, I want you to hear what he had to say, because I think some of the things specifically regarding the defense and communication, I think some of these things are extremely interesting. Hang in there. More of the Bill Michaels Show next. Ready?
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad you are with us. Thanks so much. As always, the Bill Michaels Show continues on. Appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging out with us today as on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. Man, going to get warm today, up in the upper 40s. I'm looking forward to it. Big time. Matt LaFleur yesterday went to the podium and had his first chance really to, in a while, to sit down and take questions from the media, talk about this team. But, throughout this thing, now listen when they start to talk about defensively speaking and Joe Barry and such, because there's some interesting things there and interesting comments there. But this was Matt LaFleur's. We're going to listen to it in its entirety. Matt LaFleur yesterday with the media going back and forth and answering questions. Take a listen.
We'll go ahead, Matt Schneidman.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you doing?
Not too bad. So why Joe Barry as your new defensive coordinator?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of reasons why. It really was a long process. We interviewed 9 guys, and it just kind of came back to what, first and foremost, what I always look for, and that's a high character person. Then obviously somebody that's extremely a great communicator, knowledgeable, and then the scheme portion. I just thought he checked all the boxes, and he earned it. And we, like I said, we talked to 9 guys, and the one thing that was pretty enlightening about this whole experience was there are a lot of great candidates out there, and it, like I said, it was a tough decision, but I thought one that was the best one for the Green Bay Packers.
Rob Domofsky.
Hey, Matt, you got me?
Gotcha, Rob.
Hey, so what are you looking for from your defense, and how much of what Brandon did with the Rams last year are you looking for Joe to implement here?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it is a pretty multiple scheme. It was one of the more difficult schemes to scheme against as we were getting prepared for that game. But I think all great coaches, you've got to be able to adapt to your personnel and put guys in the right positions in order to have success. And I think it's multiple enough for for us to do that.
Ryan Wood.
Hey, Matt, obviously we don't know much about Joe yet outside of what's on paper. His 4 previous years as a defensive coordinator, he was 32nd, 28th in defense. Why was that not a deterrent for you? What did you see on film that made you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think just knowing a little bit about those previous situations. Obviously, I was in Washington prior to his arrival there. So, and then just, going through the process, I think as coaches, you're always growing, you're learning. Obviously that's something I'm not, that we looked at when going through this process. But, I got a chance to work with Joe in LA. I know what type of communicator, I know the energy he brings. And then I think, he's learned a lot from those previous experiences. And I don't think he'd ever hide from those. I think, the bottom line is we are going to get judged on what we do moving forward and not from our past experiences. And, we understand what's at stake each and every week when we go out there on the field. We've got to perform. And, but I just felt really comfortable with, again, the person, his ability to communicate, the energy he's going to bring, the scheme that he's bringing with him in order to get the most out of our players.
Mike Spofford.
Hey, Matt, you mentioned working with Joe before in LA. What's it been like just reconnecting with him after a few years, and what did you remember most about that time when you worked with him?
It's been great. There's been a lot of open dialogue. I've been sitting through the majority of the defensive meetings and just hearing the philosophy around, the scheme. It's been a lot of great conversations. I think our staff's been heavily involved in the dialogue and why it is what exactly we're going to do. And it's been nothing but positive so far.
Steve McGargy.
You talked about the time working with him and just the energy that Joe brings. Just what sticks out regarding that? What's any examples of kind of the energy he showed during y'all's stint together there with the Rams?
Well, he's a pretty excitable guy. You can see it on any of the tape of if you're watching the Rams. He's always right there. I think he had responsibility of signaling in or at least communicating with some of the guys on defense. And you'll definitely see it on game day.
Mark Daniels.
Hey, Matt, got me all right?
I got you, Mark.
Can you just talk a little bit about the added responsibilities and/or more involvement you want from Jerry, working with Joe, and then Adam on the run side with Nathaniel?
Yeah, I think it's just, rewarding those guys for great work. You look what our defensive backfield did this year. I thought we did a great job of eliminating a lot of the explosives that maybe we gave up a season before. And then, with Adam on the offensive side, he's kind of one of the guys that kind of gets our run game going in the right direction. He's a guy I lean on heavily on game days in regards to how we want to attack. I mean, him amongst many others, but I just thought it was well-deserved for both of those guys.
Dave Schrader.
Hey, Matt, how big of a challenge is this shrinking cap going to be for you? I mean, you've had the assimilation into being a first-year head coach a couple of years ago, last year dealing with the pandemic and the altered offseason. How big of a challenge is this, though, dealing with what might happen with who you can keep and who you can't keep?
Yeah, it is. It certainly is a challenge. It's a challenge for all of us. I mean, there's going to be tough decisions that need to be made, and but you got to move forward, and you got to make the best decisions that you feel is right for the Green Bay Packers. And it's going to be important that we continue to develop a lot of our younger guys, because there are going to be some voids that potentially could be left there. And the best way to alleviate those voids is to develop your younger guys.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Matt. A couple of those guys that you hired yesterday, with Ryan and Justin, you obviously have some history there with those guys. Can you talk about your time with Justin and Ashland, and then Ryan, how much you were with Ryan at Notre Dame? I'm not sure how much you guys kind of crossed paths there.
Yeah, so Justin was a defensive back for us at Ashland. He was a team captain, and I always admired the way he went about his business. He was a pro, just a hard worker. And, he's kind of a guy I've kind of kept tabs on throughout these last however many years, 13 years or whatever it's been. And he came in high regard. I got a chance to talk to the head coach at Kent, as well as many other guys that have stayed in closer contact to him. And again, he won the job. It wasn't just you call up a guy that you're familiar with. He competed for that job, and I thought he did an outstanding job throughout that process. And then same with Ryan, a guy that I had an opportunity to see how he handled himself as a young coach at Notre Dame. And I was always been really impressed with him. And, it's always nice to get a guy that has been a coordinator. He was a coordinator at Northern Iowa. So he's used to having a lot of responsibility placed upon him. And, but yeah, really excited about both those guys.
Andy Herman.
Hey, Matt, just wondering, with the new defensive coordinator and Joe, are you looking to make any, kind of changes to the actual scheme of the defense? I know like 90% of the defense is sub-package anyway, so I'm hesitant to ask 3-4 versus 4-3, but do you see some of the edge defenders playing with their hand in the ground more, or is it going to be most the same of what we saw last year?
I think there's definitely some carryover from what we've done in the past, the last couple of years, but there's going to be added elements to it as well. So I think it really comes down to, getting your roster defined and trying to put those guys in the right situations. Certainly every game plan will have a little different flavor to it, but there will be a lot of consistency, especially on early downs, normal ball, with what we want to get done. And then we'll spice it up on third down.
Olivia Reiner.
Hey, Matt, you mentioned that you've been sitting in the defensive meetings, watching Joe speak with the existing coaches. What does the process of teaching coaches how to teach differently a new scheme now look like from your perspective as you evaluate him?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of carryover, but it's just the communication. And, I think all our guys have been really engaged in the meetings, and I'm excited to see when we can finally get our back in contact with our players and start teaching them the system.
Aaron Nagler.
Coach, how much was Joe's familiarity with this particular scheme the deciding factor in going with him over, say, Jerry, in the sense of a guy who's already on your staff, who also has been a defensive coordinator and done pretty darn well? Was the scheme the driving factor?
I think it was everything that we've talked about. Certainly that played a little bit of a part into it when deciding. But I think it was just there was a lot of great conversation throughout the interview process with all the candidates. And like I said, it wasn't an easy decision, but there were so many factors that ultimately led to where we went with the decision.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good, Jason. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Around this time last year, you thought you were going to have a normal off-season program, and then everything kind of went to hell. What's your planning like now, and what are you kind of thinking you're going to be able to do once you are able to have contact with your guys again? Do you have a pretty good idea, or are you still working through that?
That's something that we're working through, but I do have a pretty good idea of what direction we'll go, whether it's virtual or whether we have them in Green Bay. That's something I think everybody in the league is hoping to have in-person off-season program, but we will be prepared either way it goes. And obviously last year it was nice to kind of go through that because it really taught us a lot, I think, about ourselves and how we teach, but also just all the capabilities that are out there that we can use in the virtual world. So I thought it was a tough experience, but a good experience in the long run, and one that we'll be ready for if indeed we go down that path again.
There you go. That was Matt LaFleur yesterday talking to the media, and interesting in a lot of different facets. I want to talk about that when we come back. Some of the things that you may have heard, some of the things that I was specifically listening for. I thought it was very, very, very interesting for some of the things that he had to say. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. You want to chime in. It is 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Find us on all the platforms. You can find us television-wise and live stream-wise, both on Twitch and on YouTube. Just look for Bill Michaels, Michaels. You can find us on the Facebook fan page. Go to facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show, and you can find me over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels. You just heard Matt LaFleur talk to answer questions from the media and talk about his team going into this season. He talked about how Joe Barry, the new defensive coordinator, has, quote, earned it, he said. So obviously they had a discussion, they had an interview process, thought he did extremely well in the interview process. But the thing that he said over and over and over again I thought was interesting. He said, one, yes, the scheme itself, the 3-4 scheme, did play into the hiring process for him a little bit. Not a lot, but, it was certainly part of the thought process. But he kept talking about communication, non-complicated schemes, communication. And I got the sense that the problem that they were having was exactly what Preston Zedarius and Kenny Clark went to Pettine about is, dude, this is, we kind of get it, but some of the younger guys and moving these guys around and they're not getting it. They're not comprehending what it is you're saying. So one of the things that I get the sense of is, Joe, come in. You're going to run a 3-4. We're going to put the personnel. You've already got a lot of the personnel in place. We're going to put some additional pieces in place for you. But you got to make it simple for these guys. You got to be able to discuss 3-4 defense 101. That seems to me what Matt LaFleur was in. Now, Matt LaFleur doesn't say a lot, okay? A lot of words, a lot of talking, but not a lot of depth, okay? But the hint that we got was, yeah, we have looked at a lot of things. The complication of the defense played a role in the dismissal, if you will, or not bringing him back, or maybe Mike Pettine not wanting to come back. Remember, it was his last year of his contract, so maybe he just decided he didn't want to come back. But there was a reason Mike Pettine is no longer with the Packers. And they talked about communication. So I get the feeling that Joe Barry, and I said this all along, he might not be brilliant when it comes to defense, okay? But what he may be good at is a really good fit into breaking down a defense that has been played by these guys for quite some time. You're not going to have a lot of turnover defensively. You're keeping a lot of your core guys there. So now what you're trying to do is allow your core guys to be the guys that have been there, done that. They've got the instinct to go for it. Okay, because he talked about that. He talked about the instinct. You can't find or coach instinct. Guys either have it or they don't when they're talking about that linebacking position. So specifically, so he was into the discussion of communication and instinct, and I think what it is they're looking for guys and looking for a coach to say, hey, we're going to let this guy play. You have to have enough instinct and enough read to be able to see what it is they're doing and then play off of that. Because we're not running, you run out of base 3-4. We talked about this yesterday when we heard Joe Barry speak. You're only in base 3-4 defense 10 to 15% of the time. They've got what they call that star nickel, that star dime guy, the guy that can do everything. So when they talked about the star is going to be your playmaker. But what they want is they want numerous guys to have the ability to be the star in that system. So you talk about the star ability to be the playmaker, okay? And then you play off of that. And what you have to be able to do as a coach is coach your additional players to be able to understand the star and then play off of the star. And then read and react off of the star and make it simple for them to understand, okay, if he goes this way, I go this way. If he does that, I'll do this. If he takes on that blocker, I've got the guy coming at me after that. He's not going to be a man scheme where he's going to just have that guy, and if he gets tied up in a block, that's still his man, and I got to go someplace else. This is going to be a lot of communication, and what they're looking for, I think, is somebody to come in and give them communication 101. So I get it. There at the end, he was asked about the preparation for this year. I mean, most teams, as he stated, you're kind of preparing for what you knew from years ago, not this past year. Certainly there's going to be protocols and such, but you're looking more for a normalcy when it comes to training camp and OTAs and mini camp. And you're still going to do your Zoom meetings. You're still going to talk to guys and such, but I think there is going to be a little more of a sense of normalcy when it comes to preparing for this upcoming season. Now, coming up in the next hour, we're going to hear from Nathaniel Hackett. I wanted to take today without guests so we could take a listen to all the things that these coaches had to say, specifically Nathaniel Hackett on the offensive side. Obviously, you got special teams coach as well. We're going to hear a little bit of that later on, but I just find that today is one of those interesting days where you can kind of listen and dissect what it is these coaches are trying to explain as they move forward schematically, personnel-wise, with what the Packers are looking to do and how they're looking to get different and better coming into this upcoming season. So we're going to get in all of that coming up. Jody, thank you very much. Jody, our girl out there at Wisconsin Harley-Davidson, chiming in, running the motor clothes department out there. As a matter of fact, coming up here momentarily, if you're following us on the stream, you can see everything that Wisconsin Harley-Davidson has to offer when it comes to the motor clothes. So follow that. That's going to run here momentarily. But stay tuned. We got a lot more coming up next hour. We're going to hear from Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers offensive coordinator as well. We'll continue to discuss this. Brewers back at it again yesterday, back at it again today. Badgers fall yesterday, and that's not good. Stay tuned. A lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, number 25, Wisconsin lost its 7th straight game to a ranked team, falling at number 23, Purdue, 73-69 last night at the Mackey Arena. The Badgers' offense was once again anemic as they shot just 40.4% from the field. Also, they shot 7 for 29 from beyond the arc. Here's more from Bucky big man Nate Reavers.
Very frustrating as looking at the teams have lost, and a lot of those teams are ranked in the top 10 right now. This league's tough, and it's super frustrating too. You can't get some of those wins against the top teams. So, we still got everything in front of us here.
The Badgers have one game left in the regular season, Sunday when they travel to number 5, Iowa. Last night also saw the Milwaukee Bucks have their 5-game winning streak snapped as they would lose to the Denver Nuggets 128-97. The Deer will now hit the road for a matchup with Memphis on Thursday, the final game before the NBA's All-Star break.
So your current job isn't working out so well? Maybe you'd like a career where you work with your hands and make a good living. Have you thought of a career in a skilled trade like plumbing, electrical, or HVAC? You can be in demand and earn more than many college graduates without all the debt. To get your career started, go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin. Start today.
The Green Bay Packers haven't used the franchise tag in more than a decade, but Packers GM Brian Gutekunst says they could possibly do it with running back Aaron Jones.
Every situation is different. It is a tool that is out there for us to use if it makes sense for the football team. So, whether it's a franchise tag, the transition tag, or some of the other avenues for us to retain players, it's always something we'll look at. And if that's the best situation for us, then we'll go ahead and use it if we need to.
If the Packers don't resign Jones or put the franchise tag on him, he'll become a free agent March 17th. But if they do franchise him, he would cost about $8 million against the 2021 salary cap. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Welcome back to the program, and we are into hour number 2. Thanks, as always. We certainly appreciate you hanging out with us, and I'm Bill Michaels. You want to give us a call? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Find us on all the different platforms. We're on Twitter, @Bill_Michaels, @Bill_Michaels, Michaels. You can find us over on Facebook. Watch and stream the program as well. The Bill Michaels Show. That's The Bill Michaels Show. And on YouTube and on Twitch TV, you can find us there. Please subscribe. You can subscribe. You can like. We appreciate all of that. Thanks so much to those of you that have. It's great to see that so many people watch and listen and chime in each and every day over on those platforms. Simply go to youtube.com or Twitch TV. Just type MICHAELS on the Twitch app as well. You can download it on your phone and YouTube as well. But you can do all that and still be able to listen to the program. If you're out traveling around, you can also find us at Mad City Sports Zone and go to the live stream there and listen to us if you're out and about, chiming around. That's our flagship station out of Madison. So good stuff there. This portion of the program brought to you by our good friends at Quick Trip, the official fuel sponsor and convenience store, by the way, of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And by the way, when it comes to our friends at Quick Trip, I was up at Quick Trip and Tobacco Outlet Plus in the last 24 hours, and they've got the Macanudo M's. I highly recommend that cigar over at Tobacco Outlet Plus. Love that thing. They got them back in. I was kind of freaking out a little bit because they were just about out. Oh, my goodness. They got them back in. That and a Sweet Baby Jane's. Oh, so good. But Quick Trip, you stop by, you get the take-home meals with your Quick Rewards card for a chance to take home some cash. They are giving away $50,000 in cash. $50,000. One $10,000 winner each week, 5 weeks. Do the math. 5 weeks, one 10,000, 50,000 bucks. That's what it equals. Quick Trips, take-home meals, freshly made, absolutely delicious. They've got chicken, they've got mashed potatoes, they've got gravy, they've got stuffing, they've got turkey, they got all kinds of stuff. And you can take home tonight, and you could take home 10,000 bucks as well. No purchase necessary. You can see the store for details. That is from our terrific friends from Quick Trip, based proudly right here in the state of Wisconsin. They continue to grow. They're in Iowa, they're in Minnesota, they're in Northern Illinois, they're all over the place. So congratulations to our friends at Quick Trip, a terrific company. So thanks to them for being here. So a lot of stuff that I want to get into. Okay. So Chris writes, do you think that Joe Barry is the right hire based on what he has done as a defensive caller or as a buddy of Matt LaFleur's? And Chris, I don't know. There is a level of both. He obviously feels, Matt LaFleur feels he's the right fit. You want to hire friends, people you know, but people, have you ever been in a position in which you're going to hire people? You've worked for people or you've worked with people, you're a friend of theirs, you go to a different company. And then you start to think about your buddies, about people at your old job, people you've worked with, you got a relationship with, okay? You think about those people, but then you think about who is going to make me better? Who is going to be the hire that I want that's going to make my team better? Whether it's a team as far as manufacturing goes, whether it's a team like what I do. When we started this new network, they came to me and we started talking about producers and support staff and this and that. And I had a short list of people. These are the guys that I've worked with. These are the guys I really like. Okay. So I had a short list. Same thing. I think Matt LaFleur goes at it and says, I really like this guy, but he's okay, but this guy I believe in. So he's not hiring him just because he's a buddy. He believes in what he can do, So yeah, I'm not excited about Joe Barry in the sense of, oh my God, they're getting this guru. It's not like bringing in Wade Phillips, where Wade Phillips had this track record. He goes into a new defense, he turns them around in 2 years, and then after 3 or 4 years, it's kind of burned up, and Wade moves on, or he gets a head coaching gig and he's the interim for a little while, and then he moves on from there. But there's certain guys that have gone around the league and have had success damn near everywhere they went. Okay. Joe Barry had 2 bad defenses, Detroit and Washington. All right. Then he lands last year out there with the Rams. And I shouldn't say last year, but he's been with the Rams. Okay. He's worked there, studied there, saw what it takes to have a really good defense. That was the top defense in the league last year. Now, I don't know how much of a say he had in it, but certainly he had input, and he sees what it takes to be a number 1 defense. So I think that has something to do with it as well. So there's a likability there. There's a quality there. I think communication is big. So I think all of that comes into play. I don't think it's just a friendly hire, if you will. This is from Jason. Jason says, I like Matt LaFleur's hires so far. He has not really had a misstep. Has he? No. You got a new special teams coach, though. Special teams hasn't necessarily been great. I'm waiting. Yeah, and the defense under Mike Pettin did get progressively better. It just wasn't to that level. It was that and the special teams seemed to be the Achilles heel, which is the reason you've found 2 new coaches. So I like the fact that he's willing to say, you know what, this ain't working. We're out. We're out. See ya. Gone. Let's go. Next. I'm of the Matt LaFleur is in this for 2 things. One, he's in this for the short term because he knows he's got a Hall of Fame quarterback for a short period of time. And then secondly, he's in it for the long term to build a foundation that's going to take you not through the next 2 years or 3 years, but through the next 5 to 10, philosophically speaking. Now, you have to adjust your personnel each and every year, and that's what good coaches do. But philosophically speaking, you're laying the foundation for what it is you believe and your beliefs are and how you want to go about your business to get from point A to point B. And you also know that the average lifespan of a head coach in the National Football League is like 6-7 years. It's not much longer than that. To go 10 years that's almost a pipe dream. So he's 2 years in. He's 26-6 in the regular season in 2 years, 2 NFC championship games, both of which he faltered at. So there's not a whole lot of room to go up. You know what I mean? But he'll also know you win a title, that buys you time. You win a championship, that buys you time. I mean, I was a little bit surprised at how fast Doug Peterson descended after winning a championship in Philadelphia. But some of his moves and comments and angst, it was a little mind-boggling for what he did and what he had. But clearly there was headbutting going on between him and upper management, even his players. So once you completely lose that locker room, you're done. You know, you're swimming in a tidal pool by yourself, and you know, you can yell into the wind all you want, but nobody's going to listen. So, but so anyway, yes, I think you know, getting 2 new hires in, a fresh look. I don't know how much it's going to improve, how long it's going to take to improve them. But when it comes to special teams, and we talked about this, it's about your depth. Special teams is about your depth. I mean, you can coach guys, yes, put them in the right place at the right time, but it's about your depth. Because special teams are all about the guys that you have that are not playing prominent roles, so they're actually on the field. And what kind of guys do you have? Are they buying into what it is you're selling? You know? Are they buying into that? 877-867-1670. Want to get your thoughts. After hearing what Matt LaFleur had to say, he talked about Joe Barry earning it, communication, talked about the scheme, played a little bit into it, but they're sticking with the 3-4. I think the Packers are on the right path. How much faith do you have in Joe Barry? We heard from him yesterday. We heard from Matt LaFleur today. We're going to hear from the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, coming up a little bit later on. But how much faith do you have right now in the direction that this team is going? And maybe the better question is this: how far away do you feel they are? How far away do you feel they are? Are they 1 or 2 players? Are they 5 or 6 players? You know, are they picking up some quality rookies, 2 or 3 good rookies with 2 or 3 good free agents? I mean, how far away are they in your opinion? That might be the best question right now, because then it'll determine whether or not you believe that the Packers are a team that really should be pushing the chips to the middle of the table or not. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Braden says these hypotheticals without names mean nothing. Jones is a fantastic talent. 8.5 is a great price for him. But does this lead to an extension when the big TV contract hits the books in a few years? Or is it a 1-year buy? Is bolstering the defense bringing in a guy like Kirksey? Yeah, that's a great question. Out of step, Charlie says, why would you draft a Dillon if you're not going to use him? You would use him. But again, he's different. He's a different style of running back. Do both and cut Preston Smith to make up the difference. Well, Preston Smith will give you about $8 million, which would be about keeping Aaron Jones. But you still, again, whatever you spend on Aaron Jones is what you're not going to have to spend in other areas. How many players are you going to get for $3, $4, $5 million? You know, that's how far away do you think you are? Okay, let's just say this, because I'll say this. I don't think you're hearing more rumblings now about the possibility of franchise tagging Aaron Jones. For the fact is, you're getting a really quality player for a undervalued position. Okay, so you're getting a substantial cat in many different rating systems. When you look at Sport Track, you look at free agents via CBS, you look at free agents via Pro Football Focus. In many of those different rankings, he's like 8 or 9 in the top 10 of free agents that are out there right now. Okay, so you're going to look at Aaron Jones and say top 10, top 8 or 9 guys on the free agent market, and you could possibly get him for $8.5 million. That's kind of a bargain. That's hard to pass up, right? Do you need him? You know, how much did A.J. Dillon show you that you could say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I'll go in that direction. You know, I'll do that. You bet. So what else do you need? You know? What else do you need? Because there's free agents out there that you could look at and say, okay, maybe this guy could come in and fill the bill. Anthony says, what about Chris Godwin coming in as a wide receiver? He's only 24. Would you spend the money on him to be the counter to Davante Adams? Well, first of all, he doesn't want to be the counter to Davante Adams. He would be a great bring-in, but I don't think that's going to happen. Allen Robinson, by the way, out of the Bears. I think the Bears, if anything, they're going to franchise tag him, and they could possibly then turn around and trade him. But I don't necessarily see the Packers going out and getting him. And think about this now. When it comes to corners, okay, the top-ranked corner, true corner on the open market, it would probably come down to almost Richard Sherman. If you go by Sporting News rates Richard Sherman as the 15th best rated player on the open market. The 15th best rated player on the open market. So if you go by Sport Track, like Patrick Peterson is on the open market right now. So, and as well, 31 years old, not far down from Richard Sherman. By the way, Corey Linsley rated as the 21st top-rated player at age 29, coming out into the free agent market. Chris says, what about Ngakoue? He didn't seem to fit between Minnesota and Baltimore. I mean, he's got to be in a really specific, and by the way, he's kind of a liability against the run. Better edge rusher than anything. Anthony says, what about Jadeveon Clowney? He had some more health issues too. I don't know if Clowney, I mean, if he's healthy, 100% healthy, maybe he can come in and be a piecemeal type of player. But I don't necessarily think that Jadeveon Clowney is going to be the answer. I think you're still probably looking for a corner. Patrick Peterson, the 47th ranked player. He slowed down from his shutdown level, but he remains a savvy, reliable cover man during the playmaker on the outside. He posted 3 picks, 61 total tackles last year. He's 30 years old. But more seem to feel that he rates lower than Richard Sherman. But Richard Sherman didn't play this past year a lot. As a matter of fact, he only played in 5 games because he was banged up coming off of a strong 2019 campaign where he showed the old school physicality shutdown stylings. But again, would you get one or the other, Patrick Peterson or Richard Sherman? And then they're not the shutdown guy. They're not that guy. Jair Alexander is. They then play opposite Jair, but you're taking that knowledge that they have and putting it in the secondary. You know what I mean? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up, so hang in there. Stay tuned. We're going to bring you a little bit more of Nathaniel Hackett coming up after the bottom of the hour, the Packers offensive coordinator. You're going to hear from him as he spoke yesterday as well, but we're going to continue to discuss this. What is your priority right now, and do you franchise tag Aaron Jones, or do you save that money and say, you know what, we're going to go bolster the defense, we're going to do some other things? Because you got A.J. Dillon, you bring back Jamal Williams, you probably got a pretty good 2-1-2 punch in the running back situation. Go in a different direction. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show.
Following Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I went Friday night and said, "Can you help me, Creole?"
Welcome back. Glad to have you. Bill Michaels Show on the air, and we are glad you are with us. Glad you're with us. Going to hear from Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers offensive coordinator, coming up after the bottom of the hour. We'll get into that. It's good discussion. Good discussion by many of you talking about what you would do if you're the Packers This one basically says restructure Preston Smith. This is from Rick. Rather than cutting him, the Packers have the leverage. Smith won't get too many offers, and the ones that he gets won't be for much money after last year's statistics. This one is from Jason, who says, I would keep Aaron Jones, restructure Preston Smith. That takes care of two birds with one stone. And then I would go out and find Richard Sherman or Patrick Peterson to be your other corner. Draft a depth at the offensive line position and at the defensive line position, and hopefully you pick up another linebacker that is quality. Would you bring back Robert Tonyan as well? Yes, I'd bring back Tonyan. I'm bringing back Tonyan regardless. He's not going to cost you a lot of money. So, yes, I'm bringing back Robert Tonyan, without a doubt. JB says Aaron Jones is demand. You can't just let him walk. Ava says, don't you get good compensatory picks if Aaron Jones and Corey Linsley are picked up by other teams? Yes, you do. You're going to have them in the 2022 draft, and you'll pick up most likely fourth-round picks, so you'll have a couple of extra picks next year. Lucas writes, great show as always. I love watching the commercials over on the live stream, making me want to get out and ride. I just bought a brand new Harley last year, but I'm looking to put accessories on it. I love talking Packers football, even in the off season. Aaron Jones, as much as I love him, has to go. This team needs money and a lot of it. They have to put pieces around Aaron Rodgers to be able to give him a legitimate shot at winning. I think the defense needs to be better. I think the offense is about there. You can probably lose a piece or two and not lose a ton. Aaron Rodgers just has to play out of his mind again. But do you expect that? I don't think I can go into the season and say, Aaron Rodgers, you got to go play out of your mind. We know he has to play at a high level. There's no doubt about that. Because if he doesn't, you're not going to go far. You're only as good as your quarterback. But what you need is if Aaron Rodgers is not this MVP level quarterback again this season, okay, then you need a defense. Your offense was so good because of Aaron Rodgers buying in. Your offense was so good because Matt LaFleur has really morphed into this head coach / play caller, and because they used motion, they ran the football. They ran the football. Who they run it with? The majority of the time, Aaron Jones. So it's not just easy to say, well, no big deal, just going to put in A.J. Dillon, it's going to be great. What if he goes down with an injury? Then who do you have? You can never have too many good running backs. You can never have too many good wide receivers. You can never have a good depth on your offensive line. I don't ever sleep at night thinking you got one or two guys. Because it never works out that way. The year that you think you're loaded going in, injuries can just crush you. Look at what happened to San Francisco this year. I mean, all of their key players ended up going down. So that can take you right out of the game, which is why some of you that'll say, well, that's stupid. I would not get another guy like that. I would. You can never have too many quality players. You just can't. Draft the best available player. I don't care if you got 10 safeties and they're all 4.3 speed. They all love to hit. They all love their mama, and they all love to go after the football. That's great, because chances are you're going to lose 5 of them throughout the season. That's just the way it works in football. It just does. So I don't ever, ever, ever sit back and say they got enough of that. You don't need any more. You don't need quarterback. That's the one area you don't need. But offensive line help? Yep. Defensive line help? Yep. Linebacker? Yep. While you have two good quality starting safeties, you can never have enough depth. Corners specifically as well. What happens if Jair Alexander goes down? Then what? That's why you need a veteran. If Kevin King's going to get blown out, that's why you have to have a veteran. Because who else do you have after that? You don't have a lockdown corner. Josh Jackson? Shannon Sullivan, Kadar Holman, those going to be your lockdown corners? Now, you lose your lockdown corner, you better have another veteran over there to help you out. Have to. Chris says Jones is a very important piece, so that changes the dynamic of the offense if he is gone. You are right. If you're thinking Richard Sherman for his knowledge, I would rather see Tramon Williams back. There's an enormous amount of knowledge in that man. They brought back Tramon Williams last year, but Tramon Williams getting up there in age. Tramon Williams, though, 2 years ago, he played solid. And you're right. I would, you know what? When Tramon decides that this is enough for football, I'd bring Tramon back. I really would. I'd bring Tramon back. Be your defensive backs coach. I think he's smart. I think he can relate. He has a way of just talking to guys. He's just a good guy. But I would bring Tramon Williams back. I'd bring him back as a defensive backs coach. He's got a career in that, I think. He's just that good. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Chime in. Taking a lot of stuff off of the live streams right now. If you want to chime in, you can hit us up on Twitter. You can find us there at Bill_Michaels. You can follow the live stream on Periscope as well. Follow it on Facebook, The Bill Michaels Show, and YouTube and Twitch TV. Simply find me at Bill Michaels. Long one. This is from Joshua, who says, "Hey, Bill, glad to have you back. I think we're 2 to 3 players away from being a better contender. If I was the Packers, I would cut Preston Smith and let Aaron Jones walk. I would try to sign Troy Hill, the cornerback from the Rams. He knows Joe Barry's system and would be a cheap help." Good point. I would sign Cordarrelle Patterson as my backup running back, gadget player, and special team star. Then go out and draft Christian Barmore in the first round and Rondale Moore in the second round. Love the show. Like the Barmore idea. I like the Barmore idea. I do. Eight's good stuff, and appreciate the thought in that. 877-867-1670. Again, 877-867-1670. Hit me up. 877-867-1670. Go ahead and give us a shout. Love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. A lot of people chiming in. We're going to hear from Nathaniel Hackett coming up here after the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned for that. Just a couple of minutes. We're going to get into that. This one's from Ellie. Ellie says, "I hate to see Aaron Jones go, but I would let him walk, try to spend that money on the defense. How long has it been since we've had a really good twice, by the way, really good defense? I would try to make the defense as potent as possible, and that way the offense doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Scoring 30-plus points per is great, but I don't think it's realistic with Aaron Rodgers constantly." There you go. And that's what we were talking about. You can't expect him to have the same season he just had, right? At least I would think not. And then real quick, this one's from Mel. Mel says, "Do you think Christian Barmore is the guy that's going to be there in the first round?" He's listed as a end of first round prospect, big defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's a solid cat, man. And he would go really good alongside as a down lineman with Kenny Clark. Good guy when it comes to being able to stuff the run. Strong move. I've seen him play a couple of times, but I was reading some of the stuff on him on Our Lads in the pre-scout draft book that's supposed to come. I like what he brings to the table. If he's there, it would not be a bad pickup. It wouldn't be a bad pickup. So I would be in favor of that. Let's do this. We'll step away. When we come back, the offensive coordinator for your Green Bay Packers, you're going to hear from Nathaniel Hackett. That's coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I'm glad you are with us. Green Bay Packers, their coaching staff getting quizzed yesterday. Questions thrown at them by the media as the combine, so to speak. And the draft process is getting underway as you start to evaluate some of the guys you might have been looking at. The offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. The offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, went to the podium yesterday and talked a little bit, answered some questions as well. So let's sit back, take a listen as to what he had to say. Here it is.
Ryan Wood, why don't you start us off?
Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing today?
Good, Ryan. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. So you guys had a huge jump year 1 to year 2 in this scheme. Where do you think the jump's going to come in year 3? How far of a jump do you want to take going into year 3, and where does that need to be?
I think, it's about consistency. I think that's the biggest thing for all of us is we just want to stay on the same playing field that we've been this past year and continue what we've done. I think there's always things you can get better at. Watching all the cut-ups past week since we've been back, there's so many things that we left out on the field. And I think it's about identifying those and just trying to continually grow from that and staying consistent. That's what this game's about, is how long can you stay consistent and be able to play offense the way that we did last year.
Dave Schrader.
And Nathaniel, how important is, say, Robert Tonyan to being consistent? He really emerged last year, was such a good red zone target, helped you out in that area. But, of course, he's one of those guys who's a restricted free agent. What did he mean to you last year, and what would he mean to get back?
I'll tell you, Robert did a great job at really improving his blocking. I think that's one thing that a lot of people overlook. I think he really took a lot of pride in that. Having a guy like Mercedes in there doing what he does, I think that the blocking aspect really helped him. And I think that's another thing that he's going to be able to continually improve on, which makes him even more valuable. And then, his ability to get down the field and separate and catch the ball. He was pretty good last year. And whenever you have a red zone threat like that, it's huge. The more people you can have that are a threat down there, the more the defense has to cover. So he's an integral part in the things that we did last year, and we just got to keep him developing.
Rob Domofsky.
Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing?
Good, Rob. How you doing?
Good, thanks. What is your plan for Jordan this offseason, and where does he need to make strides?
It's going to be a challenge for him. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen right now with how we're going to be able to work with the players. I think always being in the system for a second year is huge for a quarterback, understanding the language, understanding how we go about our everyday process, and even just being able to get out there and practice. I think that's huge. And so I think for him, it's just growing more in the offensive system, even more than he has already. Just making it his own. I think that's so huge. And obviously we're very excited if we can be able to practice, because I think that's something that he needs. Last time he was able to really get after the practices was in training camp. So if that's the kind of what we're dealt, then it'll be training camp when he's got to really make some strides and get those full-time speed reps. Besides that, it's about studying, and he's got to work on his own, because we don't get to see him, and just continually communicating and learning the system and working all his drill work and trying to better improve himself.
Olivia Reiner.
Hey, good afternoon, Nathaniel. A year ago, you would have been at the Combine, and you're not now, at least. So how does the, especially the interview process now, how does that look different for you, and how do you alter what you do, questions you ask, in order to get as much out of those sessions as possible?
Yeah, it's going to be different. I think we've all become Zoom professionals now as coaches. Something we've all dived into. And I think having that last season of virtual, being able to understand how to use Zoom, communicate with players, talk with them, test them, all those things. I think we have to just try to be as creative as we can as this process starts, for us to be able to start talking to the guys. As that happens, we're just we get a little more time, which is great. And you can talk with them, get to know them, and we just have to be creative. We have to find different ways to be able to find the information out that we need and try to make the best decisions as possible.
Matt Schneidman.
Nathaniel, with Steno's promotion, how does putting together that run game, or how do you expect it to maybe look different, or will it still kind of look the same because of how much input he kind of had in that area last year?
I think it'll stay the same. I think up to this point, past 2 years, we've done a pretty good job on offense. And again, it's about consistency. We want to keep everything right there. And I mean, that promotion is just a credit to him and what he's done since he's been here. But a lot of the stuff that we do, we're so collaborative as a staff. We all work so well together and in communicating, trying to come up with new ideas, new thoughts. And it's just we're just going to kind of continue on what we're doing and just try to put a good run game plan together that marries up with the pass game.
Mark Daniels.
Hey, Nathaniel, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
You talk so much about conceptually tailoring your plans to meet the specific skill sets of your players. Is that going to be difficult when you aren't sure what skill sets you're going to be dealing with because of free agency in the backfield in particular?
Yeah, no, it's a gregreat question. Every year, this league is so fluid. I mean, there's so many different changes. There's the injury bug. Sometimes, you hit, and it's about being able to adapt. And it's about having a system that is flexible enough to fit anybody. And I think that's what we kind of always plan during this off season, whether it's free agency or anything that might happen. So I think it's about just continually fine tuning what we want to be as an offense and being able to adjust to anybody that might be in there, because everybody does so many different things different, and some people do things better than others at certain things. And again, it's just about being flexible, being able to find out what those guys do as fast as we can whenever we're all together again, and being able to fit it to them.
Bill Huber.
To kind of stick with that theme with free agency, Daniel, who knows what's going to happen at center? So if a guy like Runyon has to play, what did you think of John last year? He obviously got thrown in there a few times.
I think one of the best things about John was it just wasn't too big for him. I think that's something you're always looking for whenever you put a rookie in. We were lucky, AJ, John, a couple guys that we threw in there that were younger. It wasn't too big. There wasn't that wide open eyed look. They were ready to get in there and compete. And I think that's the first thing. That's how you can't coach that. That's just something that comes natural to a player. So I think being able to get him a little experience, I know he had a solid amount of reps last year. I think that's just so valuable for him, especially without the preseason last year. So I think it's something we just got to keep developing and get the best five out there that we have.
Aaron Nagler.
Coach, it seems it's an annual tradition that we ask you about the up-tempo offense or the need possibly to use it more. This year it was used sparingly again. You seem to use it pretty well in the game against the Rams in the playoffs. Rather than ask, do you want to implement it more? It seems pretty clear that it's kind of on the back burner. What is the reticence when you have a quarterback like Aaron to not just let him go kind of pedal to the metal?
I think there's so many different things that plays into. It plays into, first and foremost, it's a team game. So you want to do best with what is best for the entire team. And I think that if it's about up tempo, I think that's something we can switch to at any time. If it's something that we want to get in the huddle and break the huddle and go, I think that's what you always have to look at is which one's going to fit you best at that time. We're very lucky. We have a quarterback that can do pretty much anything. And so I think we just have to always continually evaluate what we want to do to attack a defense, whether it's changing personnel groupings, formations and motions and shifts, or if we want to go up tempo. I think every team you face, there's something you want to do a little different. And I think we always want that in our back pocket if it's something we can get to.
Chancellor Johnson.
Hey, Nathaniel, following the NFC Championship game, there was Rodgers spoke to some of the uncertainty that he was coming back, and obviously Goody and LaFleur quickly shut that down. For you as an offensive coordinator, how nice is it to know that you have your guy back, and how can a guy like Aaron Rodgers improve on his MVP season?
I mean, I'll tell you, he was pretty spectacular last year. The good thing about Aaron is he is probably one of the most competitive human beings I've ever met in my life. It doesn't matter what you're doing, he's always trying to win. And I think there's always a drive for him. And I think it's about, taking that next step and being able to hold that trophy up in the air. And for Aaron, that's what we all have to focus on. We have to be sure that we're all aiming for that and giving that to him. And it's so great to have him. It just is. He's one of the best players to ever play this game ever. And, I'm lucky and grateful to be able to work with him every day. So we're happy to, have him here for sure.
There you go. That is the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. And he was talking to the media a little bit yesterday. Wanted you to get a semblance of that. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. Stay tuned. There's a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Ready, This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you on the Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. Hit me up over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels. At Bill_Michaels. There's the Facebook fan page. You can find, which is The Bill Michaels Show. Simply The Bill Michaels Show. And you can follow us on the live stream and the television side on YouTube and on Twitch. Please, I just had a question here from, this is from Christopher, who says, how do I subscribe? Just go to YouTube or go to Twitch, twitch.com, Twitch TV, youtube.com. Just search Bill Michaels, Michaels. Twitch is TWICH, Twitch. It is a newer app, we'll say. I mean, YouTube's been around a long time. And in comparison, Twitch is relatively new. But plenty of ways to watch the program. And Kathy says, I thought you were going to rearrange your studio. Kathy, I am, but it's an undertaking. It's not just rearranging. We're talking remodeling here. TVs are going to go on the wall. The desk and the studio setup here is actually going to be twisted and turned around. Going to get rid of the backlight behind me between the windows, and we'll change some things up. But it's an undertaking. We'll say it's one of those projects where we're currently looking at what are the people like design analysts that come in and help you design workspaces. So right now, talking to a few of those people, and as soon as it all gets worked out, then you'll know, you'll see it. So for those that do follow on the video side, on the stream side, video stream. So if you want to get a hold of us, 877-867-1670. This one is from Rick, says, seems like every hour another good player gets out. I think the teams with cap space have a chance to get good really fast. Well, it depends on how far you are over the cap. If you're a good team that has cap space and you're getting rid of additional players, you're freeing up money. Absolutely. But if you're a team like the Packers or say the Steelers and even like the Saints, oh my God, the Saints are so far over the cap. It's ridiculous. But with teams like that, you've got some time, or some money that you have to come up with. You got some good play. This is where the NFL is designed to be cyclical. Because you're supposed to have a team like the Browns, hang on to your quarterback, hang on to some of your players, spend some money in free agency, draft pretty well, and get good. And that's what we've seen. There's a team like the Packers who have managed the cap over the years. They've always been a winning franchise for the most part. Same with the New England Patriots. But you lose a couple of those quality players. This year the Patriots obviously had quite a few guys. I think it was 7 or 8, maybe even 9 guys that opted out of the season. So they're out. They opted out of the season. They've got to kind of rebuild that defense. They need to do some things. But the NFL is made to be cyclical. You're not supposed to be above 500. You're not supposed to be a contender every year, which makes what the Packers have done remarkable, but also extremely frustrating because the Patriots have been able to win year after year after year, and they've won numerous Super Bowls, 6 of them, and the Packers have been to 1 in the Rodgers era. So that's where the frustration begins to lie, was because the Patriots had such a reign of dominance that has now come to an end, admittedly, but such a reign of dominance that it kind of set the bar so high for other franchises. The Steelers have been able to get a couple. The Saints have won 1. San Francisco got there a couple times, once with Harbaugh and then once with Shanahan. So it's not made to be a dominant factor. I mean, even the Kansas City Chiefs did this past year is somewhat remarkable. Now we'll see if they take a dip. They're going to start losing some pieces as well. And as soon as you start paying big money to quarterbacks, it's time for another team to step in. Another team that can draft a quarterback, develop a quarterback, get themselves a really good defense around a young quarterback, and then suddenly you're ready to fly. And that's the way it's supposed to work in the NFL. What the Packers have done and the Patriots for that matter has been somewhat remarkable. Once you find that franchise Hall of Fame quarterback, how much do you pay him? And then how much can you put around them to be a consistent, not only winner, but a legitimate contender? You're always going to be that winner. You're always going to be that above 500 vying for the postseason, but a legitimate contender, unless injuries beset another team that is really the dominant factor in the National Football League, you're more of a we're going to the postseason, but really to make it to a Super Bowl consistently, it's somewhat of a pipe dream. It's really hard to do. So one of the things that I found interesting about Nathaniel Hackett, if you were listening to his comments, he's a great guy when it comes to being the inspiration and the confidant and such for Aaron Rodgers. But there was a lot of talk there about Jordan Love. A lot of talking about being a player going for a huge step this year, the second year in the system. And this year they get their hands on him early. They believe anyway. You're going to get the OTAs. You're going to get the mini camps. You're going to be able to get him into town to work. How much better will he be? How much of a step does he take forward? I'll be honest, I really don't care. I mean, unless Aaron Rodgers goes down with injuries, I don't care. You've got a Hall of Fame quarterback in your stable right now. The Jordan Love era is so far, to my mindset, on the back burner, it isn't funny. Unless there's a catastrophic injury to your quarterback, I don't care. I know people have questions about it. I know it's something that the media wants to talk about. I don't care. Jordan Love, I could pull into a gas station. He can come out and put air in my tires. Doesn't matter. I don't care right now. Because you've got the Hall of Famer sitting there coming off of an MVP season. And if you don't do everything you can to bolster this team in that period of time, I think you're stupid. I just do. I think you're accelerating something that you shouldn't be accelerating. I think that you are looking down the road when you should be looking right in front of you. And if you're going to do that to Aaron Rodgers, what the hell are you going to do to a quarterback that is, say, sub Hall of Fame? You know what I mean? A sub Hall of Famer. Let's just say Jordan Love is good, maybe above average, but he's not great, right? Then what? You're going to have to spend a butt ton of money on a defense that you're going to have to make into a smash you in the mouth, punch you in the nose, beat up your snot locker type of defense. That's what you're going to have to do. And you haven't proven consistently you even have the capability to do that. So right now, you stick with what's in front of you. So all the talk about Jordan Love and about getting him in and getting your hands on him and advancing, that's great if you need him in a pinch. But right now, I don't care. I want to hear what they're going to do offensively. I want to hear what they're going to do defensively. I want to hear what they're going to do to bolster the team for the here and the now, to be able to put additional pieces around Aaron Rodgers to make this team a viable contender. That's it. Got a lot more yet to go. Stay tuned. Brian Gutekunst spoke yesterday as well. We're going to hear him coming up the next hour. I'm looking forward to this. Have you heard it? Have you heard it yet? You're going to hear that coming up in about 35 minutes. Stay tuned, because there's a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Wisconsin basketball team has lost 4 of their last 5 games. That's after a 73-69 loss to number 23 Purdue on the road last night. The Badgers had chances but couldn't generate enough offense or get key stops late in the game. Brad Davison had 15 points for Wisconsin, which shot just 40% from the floor. Badgers have now lost 7 straight games against top 25 teams and are winless against Big Ten teams with winning records this season. Still, Nate Reavers not losing hope.
It's very frustrating. I was actually just looking at the other day. I was looking at the teams that lost, and a lot of those teams are ranked in the top 10 right now. And this league's tough, and it's super frustrating too. You can't get some of those wins against the top teams. So, we still got everything in front of us here.
Wisconsin going to close out the regular season on Sunday at number 5 Iowa. Turn to the Bucks. Their 5-game winning streak was snapped in blowout fashion last night in a 128-97 loss to Denver. It was the biggest margin of defeat for Milwaukee this season. They ended their 8-game homestand 5-3. They'll close out the first half of the season tomorrow night in Memphis.
Hey, honey, how was your day? Well, I brought home a delicious dinner and possibly $10K. That's $10,000. That's a good day. It's Quick Trip's take-home meal sweepstakes. Try our chicken, bacon, mac and cheese, spicy chicken penny, spaghetti, and more. Buy with your rewards card, and you could win $10,000. No purchase necessary. See stores for details. Dinner, fresh from our kitchen to heat and eat in yours. But let's be honest, they had me at $10K. The take-home meal sweepstakes from Quick Trip. We got dinner covered.
Well, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst says they could still put the franchise tag on running back Aaron Jones. He told reporters yesterday that despite them not using the tag in more than a decade, it is something that could do if it's what's best for the team. Jones set to become a free agent next month. Also, Gutekunst said that while they don't have a ton of money to work with in free agency, if they find a high-end guy they like, they'll make it work. And the Brewers back in action this afternoon against San Diego. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Welcome back. How we looking? How we looking on a Wednesday? I'm excited. Not excited for the Wisconsin Badgers, but I'm excited nonetheless. Bill Michaels Show live from the Bud Light Studios, and don't forget our good friends at Scholze Family Farms. I'm excited about this for a couple of reasons. One, first of all, Scholze Family is absolutely awesome, based out of Humber, Wisconsin. But in addition to that, they also have some quality beef, and we are right around today. God, I wish you could see it. I now have a clear pathway to both my grill and my Traeger smoker grill. So as the snow dissipated last night to the point that and melted away that I can finally get to it, there's a clear path there. Well, that is once I get rid of the dog poop that Elmo left on the patio after not wanting to go out into the yard into the snow because it was so deep. So, but it'll be out of the way. The good news is, though, that we are not far away. We're right around the corner from our full-time grilling season. Now, I was still using my gas grill under the tiki hut, but I wasn't using the smoker because the smoker's out in the elements, so it's kind of tough to do the smoking thing. But beef warms up. Time to get the grill back out. You know what I mean? And if it was packed away for the winter, I understand it. If it wasn't, and you're one of those winter grillers, kind of like myself, my tongs salute you. How we're looking. Guarantee your supply of fresh farm beef for the summer right now by purchasing the 6 or the 12-month subscription during the month of March from ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. How about this? If you do it, they're going to send you each month a free pound of ground beef. Now, that's a whole bunch of burgers for the kids, burgers for you, chili fixins, all kinds of good stuff. Free ground beef. Who does that? They have breakfast meats now as well. Sausage, bacon and links also available. But they can ship it from their family farm right there to your door, put it on your grill, and put it right on your family table. Check out Scholze because they're going to have all kinds of events around the central Wisconsin area as well. Now that spring events are starting to come back. And if you live in or vacation around the Black River Falls area, Humbird, Wisconsin, write it down. You can stop by for a visit at the farm. They'd welcome you in. They have the farm store there. You can check everything out. But check them out at ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. That's Scholze, SCHOLZE, ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. That is ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. From their family farm to your family table. They are fantastic people. ScholzeFamilyBeef.com. Good stuff. I am not. We're going to listen to Brian Gutekunst come up here in about 25 minutes. So stay tuned for that. But I do want to tackle a couple other things. First of all, kudos, by the way, to UWM last night. Kudos to UWM. They ended up a big comeback win last night. They were down 24. Big comeback win last night. They're still alive in the Horizon League tournament. So a 24-point deficit in the last 9 minutes. And they shot the lights out last night. Played good defense, shot the lights out. And think about this now. They get 2 more wins, and they're in the tournament. I'm starting to look over that fence. I have not been a big believer in UWM in quite some time. Okay? But I'm starting to get a little excited, getting a little energized. I can feel the madness starting, It's like I want to hear the music. I want that to be my wake-up music. I might even put that on my phone as my ringback tone, that CBS March Madness music. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the madness to begin in a couple of weeks. Talking Selection Sunday, and then let it get it on. Get it on for real. Oh, that is the best music in sports. I love that music. That is so awesome. Yeah. I love it. Ebo is all over it today. Ebo, what else is the best music in sports that you can think of? Because that, to me, is the best music in sports. Short of that and the Monday Night Football theme.
I got to go, Bill. I think it's the NFL on Fox. I think is a pretty damn good one, too.
Really? Okay.
I am a fan of that one. Let's see.
Yeah?
That one's up there for me.
Like that? Got it.
Other than that, man. Can I go Rocky theme music? Is that okay?
Well, that's a good sports theme. I can give you that. Yeah, I can give you that.
I got to think. NFL, anything NFL gets me going, Bill, on CBS, Fox, you name it.
Now this, and I don't know if I can get it to play. That's my ringtone. I don't know
A
if you can
beautiful
hear it.
ringtone.
Yeah, that's my
I can hear it.
ringtone.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the ringtone on my phone. But my second ringtone is the March Madness music. That's my second ringtone. Yeah.
Bill, I got one for you, dude. An all-timer right here. The Round Ball Rock by John Tesh, baby.
Yeah. The NBA on NBC.
Now that's where it's at.
Yeah, that's good too. I like that. There's certain music that's very distinctive. Then there's the soft tones of the Masters. Do you have the Masters music?
What efforting? 1 second.
Okay, if you can find the Masters music, because that's distinctive too. I mean, you hear that, you know exactly what you're about to watch. There it is. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
Welcome back to Augusta National. I'm Jim Nance. I'm not wearing any pants.
How we looking, friends?
How we looking? Driving down Magnolia Lane. You ever been to the Masters?
No, I wish. It's on the bucket list, though.
Yeah, I've never been. I really would love to go. I've never been. I've had a couple
I think
of opportunities.
I think I'm too raucous to go there, too rowdy to go there, Bill.
Oh,
I'd be like Happy Gilmore. I'd be like Happy Gilmore out there.
It is a private club, and they make no doubt about it. It is a private club. So you have certain standards you have to live up to when you go in. If you ever get a ticket, and if you don't, they have no problem saying, it's time for you to leave, sir. None at all.
I'll take that badge of honor. I'll take that badge of honor getting kicked out of the Masters.
But that is distinctive music. So there's 4 or 5 pieces of music that you know exactly what it is the minute you hear it. But I think the one that gives me goosebumps is still March Madness music. That just does. There's something to that, which is why I want to get the new studio here in the house done, because then I'm going to get all my TVs up. I've already got a 45-inch. I want to get another one, and then I'm going to get 2 more like 30-inch TVs alongside, and that way I can have all the TVs up and watching all the games. I'm going to put them all on the wall. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it by the time the Madness gets here. I am going to get one more television, but I'm at least going to have 2, so we shall see. But Kinger says the Vince Lombardi Trophy Award, the presentation has its own theme music as well. It does. You are correct. But it's starting to catch on because they just started doing that like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah, that's the Lombardi theme music. You know what's funny is that music is also the music that they used for years with the Vince Lombardi Award of Excellence. And that was the music, because at this point in time, you would see the video and then you would say, ladies and gentlemen, please rise and give a round of applause to, and then the recipient of this year's honor is, because that was the music that was playing when we presented it to Cal Ripken, when we presented it to Mia Hamm, when we presented it to Hank Aaron, Mark Johnson, the 2010, those members of the 2010 Packers Super Bowl winning team. I mean, that music still gives me goosebumps as well. Absolutely. But heck yeah. Heck yeah. So there you have it. That's, by the way, the Olympics, another very distinctive one. You are correct. The Olympics thing. By the way, did you see the Olympics are not going to allow foreign spectators? I love this. This reminds me of when I was a kid. Jim McKay, ABC. Oh, yeah. I still remember the Winter Olympics probably more than I do the Summer Olympics, but then listening to Al Michaels and the call, the 80 Olympic team. And, oh, yeah, that brings back a lot of memories as well. Going back to the days of, Mark Spitz from years gone by, and even back when Bruce Jenner was Bruce Jenner, watching him win the decathlon. So, oh yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. Eric Heiden, and when he won the speed skating championship over and over and over and over and over again, Bonnie Blair Cruikshank. So absolutely, there's a lot of good memories there attached to the Olympic thing. But yeah, the Olympics this year, while they will take place, there will not be allowed foreign spectators into Tokyo. So they have made that announcement. So if you have tickets, you might as well go ahead and cancel them, because they're not going to let you in the country. They're still going to hold the Olympics, but the rest of it, nah, baby, nah. Not going to happen. which I think kind of sucks. And I was wondering if it's going to be, can you at least have family members there? If you're not going to have general spectators, can you at least have family members there? Now, that they did not address, so I have to kind of take a look further and see. But that would be disappointing, man. You train your rear end up for years and years and years, and then you're not allowed to go? Not allowed to have your family there with you? That would suck. So the Badgers, they ended up losing last night. Marquette got a win. You got a really nice effort at UWM, but man, when you talk about the tournament, UWM's got to win to get in. The Badgers, they're not going to be in, and the Marquette Golden Eagles, they're not going to be in. The Badgers, if the Badgers lose the next game and then lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, I wonder if they're still in just off of reputation. Because if they do get in, they're going to be a 12 seed or worse, I would assume. But, man, it's just down the stretch, just watching Badger basketball. And last night, again, I can sit here and talk about effort, and they played better, and we can discuss all of that. But man, oh, man, it's just, it's like, what the hell? They're just stumbling to the finish line at best. At best. Last night, another tough effort out of the Badgers. They fall 73-69 to Purdue. Purdue, number 23 in the country. And I told you, Purdue, when we talked on Monday, Purdue we knew was knocking on the door. And they finally get in. Meanwhile, the Badgers continue to fall. And they're now 16-10 overall, 10-9 in the Big Ten. And I guess just the winning record in the Big Ten is getting you there, because the Big Ten has been better this year, but they got one game remaining, and that's against Iowa. That's it. They've won or lost 6 out of their last 9. 3-6, that's not cutting it, man. And now granted, you're playing some decent teams, but you got beat up by Penn State in the first of a back-to-back. You lost to Illinois. You lost to Michigan. You lost to Iowa. Okay, there's ranked teams. You did beat the unranked Northwestern team. You beat them by 17. Then a ranked team in Illinois you fell to. The ranked team in Purdue you fell to. Just not a good way to go. Maybe their best win of the season. What's their best win of the season? Minnesota? The Minnesota win? Beating Maryland, maybe? At Maryland? Because Minnesota is now what? 22nd, 21st in the country, something like that. But Minnesota, 13-12 overall, 6-12 in the Big Ten. They were 21 at the time, but they're not that good. What's your signature win coming out of the Big Ten this year? You might have to say maybe the Maryland win. Maryland's at least 500. Beating Maryland the second time on the road, the 61-55 victory. It's probably your signature win. Beating Penn State after that. Beyond that, Loyola Chicago. That's it. That's it. Badgers need this one. Need this one big time. You need something to get. And I keep saying it, but it's kind of like at this point now, it's kind of like, throw your hands in the air. Whatever happens, happens. Ebo's Burner says they stink. Nicholas said is great guard in the hot seat. We talked about this a while ago. I don't think so. I mean, you give them another year to kind of right the ship, You just thought this year coming into this season with as much veteran savvy as they have that this would be a better season for them. And it just hasn't been. And it hasn't been because this has just been a really, really, really poor shooting team. Period. A really poor shooting team. That's it. I don't know how else to put it. You can talk about all kinds of other stuff, but the bottom line is just a terrible shooting team. That's it. Let's do this. We'll step away. We'll take a quick break. Come back. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
High fives, Wisconsin.
Gina Della from Pella, what's the celebration?
Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin was just named NARI's Distributor of the Year.
That's a big deal.
You're not kidding, but there's more. The International Builder Show just named Pella's new Easy Slide Operator Best Window and Door Product of the Year.
Another Pella innovation that eliminates the repetitive cranking motion on casement and awning windows with an easy slide.
A real blessing for those with hand and wrist issues.
Why crank your windows when you can easy slide, right?
But there's still more.
Oh, you mean based on the 2019 Consumer Survey on leading national brands that Pella is rated #1 for highest value, highest quality.
Yes, but there's still more. Now get 5 years, no interest, plus 5 months, no first payment.
Pella now, pay later. High fives all around.
But only through March 31st. Set your free consultation today at PellaWI.com/radio or 855-PELLA-WI.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Bill Michaels Show is back. Coming up after the bottom of the hour, you're going to want to hear this. You're going to want to hear this. The question is, Brian Gutekunst yesterday, and if you didn't hear it, you're going to hear it in its entirety coming up. but the Packers GM, Brian Gutekunst, says we won't be able to do a lot in free agency. So we're going to talk about that coming up after we listen to what Brian Gutekunst had to say. Aaron Rodgers probably going to start restructuring his deal. It appears, though, that Brian Gutekunst has been in touch with Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers' agent, one of the two. So they got to do that. Preston Smith. I thought for sure that they would probably go the roster cut after June 1st with Preston Smith. Now they can restructure and save some money. But if Preston Smith is the best of that affordable option, do you keep him? Now, here's one thing to think about. Preston Smith, if you look at his numbers career-wise, after a year statistically in which he is down, he usually bounces right back, which would mean and indicate that Preston Smith this coming season probably going to have a pretty good year. So if you can restructure that deal, it's kind of like getting yourself a free agent. You basically solidify that position. So what you would then need is to draft additional defensive line help and then spend your money on a corner, which I feel strongly about. I feel that if I have a priority that I'm going to go spend money on, it's going to be corner. Because if Jair goes down, you're in trouble. You need a very strong corner. And if Kevin King's out of the mix, which he appears to be, you got to get yourself a good corner. So we'll see. And then there's talk about whether or not they'll either franchise tag or transition tag Aaron Jones. The Packers are the only team, by the way, in the NFL, dating back to, if I read the story correctly, 2011, that has not tagged a potential unrestricted free agent. Now, they could franchise Aaron Jones, and it's not 8.5, it's about $8 million is where it would end up being. And Jones then could turn around and say, you know what, I'm not going to play. I don't want to play for that. And he could either sit out, force a trade. We know, again, in the running back position, Jamal Williams is scheduled to become a free agent as well. One or the other are coming back. And I don't think, and again, for Drew that just sent me an email and said, out of the two guys I would rather keep, the depth on the offensive line might be a priority. I would rather keep Corey Linsley. Corey Linsley's going to get about $10 million a year. You're not going to be able to re-sign him for that. You're not going to be able to re-sign him for that. And that's about what you're going to get him for if you franchise tag him. So I don't see that happening. That's not the way the Packers do it. So we'll see. Yep, we'll see. And then obviously you've got some change. We talked about the change in the coaching staff. Joe Barry in for Mike Pettin. Maurice Drayton hired to run the special teams after Sean Menenga was let go. So two new coordinators. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about here. So we're going to hear from Brian Gutekunst coming up here in about 5 minutes. So stay tuned for that, because you're going to want to hear that conversation that he had with the media yesterday. And I just think there's a lot of interesting things there. I was hoping he was going to say something to the effect of, yeah, we're looking at all of our options. We want to get better, and we want to get better now. We want to really make a push. None of that. None of that was stated. It was, we're going to figure out some things. You know, we're working with some of our players and restructuring it. They might keep some of the guys around that they currently have. So all of that in consideration. We'll see. The Joker says, here's why you keep Preston Smith. In a 3-4 defense, it's important that you have depth. Yes, Gary played well, but he's been injured before, and you need a minimum good 3 outside linebackers. So, yes, if you can restructure Smith, you do so, and then you end up keeping him. And then the judge, Max, says, I would keep Preston Smith, but you still need to spend money in the exactly what I said. You still need to spend money in the secondary. If you let Kevin King go, your depth is not quality. So that's, again, why you look into the direction of you don't need that lockdown guy, but you need a really good one, because what happens if Jair goes down? Then you could be in a heap of trouble. So you still, and if you don't have an additional pass rusher, if you're, and I think Rashawn Gary is going to get better this year. He really took a step forward last year. And I have to admit, I could end up, changing my opinion again, but Rashawn Gary showed me more than I thought he would when they drafted him. I thought he was a guy that you could start to put the bust tag on, and I'm wrong. I was wrong on that. So he's gotten better. Now he's not he's not a power move guy, where he's got some good undercut or the hammer like Reggie White brought or anything like that. He's not that guy, and he's not as fast, not as quick, but he's a bull rush dude. Once he gets those feet chugging, man, you had better got your center of gravity out over your feet, or he's going to shove you right back into the quarterback, and that's what he's done. So let's do this. We'll step away. When we come back, we're going to hear from Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of your Green Bay Packers. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show is next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
From the kennel to the coop, Fleet Farm has everything you need to keep your animals happy and healthy. Whether you're training your pup to sit, mastering those retrieval skills, flipping your horse for competition, keeping the backyard birds well fed, or loving your pets like family. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, I don't need it, because we have it all. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. How we looking? Bill Michaels Show. We continue on, warming up. Blue sky, sunshine out there. The wind has died down. The snow is melting. I can see it just running off. All that icy stuff running off the rest of the roof. And I still have some out there, about maybe 3-4 inches in some spots of snow and some ice and blech, but it's quickly leaving, and I'm all in favor of that. That's for darn sure. The Green Bay Packers general manager, Brian Gutekunst, he was at the podium as well yesterday. As we continue to listen, we heard from Matt LaFleur, Nathaniel Hackett. We've heard from Joe Barry yesterday, and it's time now to listen to the general manager of your Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst, as he answered questions from the media. Here it is.
With Steve McGargy.
Just wondering from your perspective, what's going to be the biggest challenge for you in the pre-draft evaluation with this series of pro days replacing the combine this year? How difficult that'll be for you?
Yeah, I think there's a number of obviously different ways we're going to have to attack this. One, obviously, when you have the combine, the ability to see the top 350 or so players in one place and kind of compare them in the same setting is obviously very important for us. And then obviously the part of it as the league and the teams try to work through getting the information and the correct answers on the medical piece of it will be a different challenge. But, everybody's going through it. For me, the ability to see the players live at the combine is something that is very valuable to me. So I think, just trying to get out much more than I normally would during the spring is going to be important this go around.
Bill Huber.
Yeah, along those lines, Brian, there's a lot of players who opted out, whether it was, the FCS guys or just some of the other guys who opted out. How do you make up for a whole year of not having film and then not having a combine on top of that?
Yeah, I think, the film projection stuff is something we do on a regular basis. So even though guys may not have played in 2020, certainly we have the 2019, 2018 film to go back to. But as you guys know, it's to play football in the National Football League. It takes a lot of reps of being a football player, and the lost reps over that time is going to impact the 2021 season. There's no doubt about it. So I think again, it's I think the guys that did play in 2020 will have some advantages going into training camps next year. I certainly think that, but at the same time, it's our job to kind of to get to the bottom of whether these guys are going to be viable NFL players, regardless of whether they played in 2020 or not.
Mike Clemens.
So, Brian, with less than 2 months, then can you tell fans then how you adjust without that combine and interviewing the players? What are your options over the next couple of weeks during these pro days?
Yeah, I think anticipating some of these things back in the fall as our scouts went out on the road, and then through the spring so far, as the different ways we're able to contact players and try to get to know these guys as best we can. We've certainly jumped on that quite a bit. At the same time, I don't think there's anything that can replace the in-person looks at a player, whether it be at their school and at practice and a game, at the combine. So certainly the pro days become very, very important for our organization and certainly the rest of the league, I think, to really kind of come to a conclusion on some of these guys.
Mike Spofford.
Hey, Brian. I know personnel is your thing, not so much coaching, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on what kind of impact you think Joe Barry and Mo Drayton can have on the defense and special teams for the Packers in 21.
Yeah, really excited about both those guys. Obviously, Mo's been here for a few years, and I've obviously been able to see him work and just kind of a consummate professional. And going to be really excited to see him put his stamp on that group and see where they can go. Didn't have a lot of familiarity with Joe Barry before we hired him, but his reputation in the league is outstanding. And then in the short time I've had a chance to be around him, it's his energy and enthusiasm, and I think some of his thoughts on our squad and where he wants to take it is, I'm just glad to have a chance to work with him.
Stephanie Sutton.
Hi, Brian. I just was wondering, was J.J. Watt ever a possibility for the Packers, and what are your thoughts about him signing with the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, obviously, we're not going to speak too much on players on other teams. Obviously, he's had a tremendous career. He's a very, very good player. Whenever those guys become available, we're certainly interested and to see if that is a fit with us. Again, he's been a good player for a long time, and I'm sure he will continue to be.
Andy Herman.
Hey, Brian, I know the goal is obviously to find good football players regardless, but is there anything that you need to change with the type of players you're acquiring, either in free agency or the draft, with the change from Mike to Joe at defensive coordinator?
I don't think so. I think there might be some subtle things, but at the same time, I think we've always kind of strived to find, versatile football players that could really thrive in any scheme. Just with the way the game changes and the way injuries affect the game, I think you have to be able to do, multiple things and be a well-rounded football player in this day and age. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of, alterations on our end as far as how we go about, what type of players we look for. And I think he's excited about the group we have coming back.
Mark Daniels.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Brian, you've been around as long as the franchise tag's been available for your use. Is it an organizational philosophy to resist it, or how do you consider it case by case?
No, it's very much case by case. It's not an organizational philosophy to not use it. I think every situation is different. It is a tool that is out there for us to use if it makes sense for the football team. So whether it's the franchise tag, the transition tag, or some of the other avenues for us to retain players, it's always something we'll look at. And if that's the best situation for us, then we'll go ahead and use it if we need to.
Rob Domofsky.
So with that said, Brian, can you use it, any of the tags on Aaron Jones, or does that just not fit with the current cap situation that you guys are in?
Yeah, we certainly could. I think it's something we're working through. I think, again, it's not a philosophical thing to avoid it. I do think there's usually better ways to go about it. But certainly if I think as we get down the road here over the next week or so, if that becomes what is in the best interest of the Packers, I think we'll do that. But at this point, we haven't done that.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Brian, obviously the Senior Bowl and those games are important in any situation, but is it more so this year because it was the one spot where you can get 100 and whatever many guys all in one spot at one time to see them compete?
Yeah, Bill, I think, obviously the Senior Bowl is always a very, very important event. Really happy that they were able to pull that off. A lot of credit goes to Jim Nagy and his staff down there at the Senior Bowl because in the world we're living in right now, for them to be able to do it and do it as safely and it was just a really clean event in a new stadium down there in Mobile. We had good weather, and it was really very helpful to our evaluation process. So I'm really thankful that they were able to put in the effort to pull that off. I do think it's probably going to it always impacts the draft, and it is an important piece. But even more so this year, I think with the limited opportunities we have to see players, I think it's going to have a big impact on the draft.
Mike Spofford.
Yeah, Brian, with doing the meetings with the prospects virtually as opposed to, in the hotel rooms and stuff like that in Indy, can you still do the, sort of put them on the whiteboard and the X's and O's thing? Do you guys still do that like over the computer, or how do you go about trying to discern that part of it?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some ways that we'll be able to do that as we move forward. In our initial Zoom interviews, we haven't really gotten to that portion of it yet. We certainly will as we go along. I think, the differences have been there hasn't been as many differences in the process as I maybe would have anticipated. And the one thing, there's kind of positives and negatives on the both of them, but I will say that the players of this generation they're so comfortable in that environment. Sometimes way more comfortable than being in a hotel room or a suite in Indy with 15 people staring at them. I think they're so much more comfortable in front of that screen. At times, I feel like we're getting a better idea of who really the player is. So, and certainly from a timing element, we're able to spread these out a little bit more, so we have a little bit more time to digest what has just transpired, and we're not moving right into another interview, 30 seconds after one. So there's pluses and minuses to it. I've been really impressed with our setup and how we've gone about it. Got to give Mike Halbach a lot of credit for our setup and the way we've been doing the Zoom interviews. And then just our scouting staff with kind of the creative ways they've come up with to talk to these players and questions that are, to get to the answers that we need.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Goody, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I don't want to be glass half full guy here. I know you wish you had the combine and absolutely everything you use to evaluate talent, but I feel like both Ted and Ron used to say that you would, you'd watch all your film and go through your reports from a kid's season. Then you'd go see workouts and you got to move this guy, and then you'd go back to the film. And the guy would kind of end up back where he started. In any way, is there more focus on the actual film? And is there any?
I lost you, Jason. Sorry, I didn't hear the end of that.
Jason, we'll come back to you. You cut out there at the end. We'll come back. Aaron Nagler.
Brian, I know nothing is official yet, but it sure looks like next season is trending towards the 17th game being added and a preseason game being taken away. I know that's a bit hypothetical, but it does look very close to a certainty. How tricky does that make it for you guys when you have a young quarterback in Jordan? You've got to get on the field. Clearly had no time on the field last offseason, and now who knows what this offseason entails. Taking away a preseason game, do you almost need to get him out there for the majority of those games to basically, see what he's got?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's very important for Jordan to get as many live reps, and that's not just him, but all young players, specifically quarterbacks. I think as we move, if that does transpire, where we get to the 3 preseason games, I think prior to last year, I probably would have told you that wasn't going to concern me as much, but after going through a season without preseason games, I realize how valuable and how important that they are. I do think with joint practices and some of the things that we've done in the past, there's going to be some opportunity to kind of allow a lot of those preseason reps to go maybe to younger, more inexperienced players, which I think is going to be not only important from an evaluation, but also a growth and development as we move forward. So with Jordan specifically, yeah, I think it was disappointing we weren't able to get him out there in the preseason this year. Looking forward to it this year. The more the better. Guys get better through playing. Practice is always important, but the live game reps for all players is something you can't replace.
Ryan Wood.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Ryan, how are you?
Doing good, thanks. When you look at the special teams over the past couple of years, specifically the lack of explosive plays, how much of that do you think is schematics? And obviously you have a new coordinator. And how much of that is the difficulty of evaluating and maybe needing to change how you evaluate the personnel side for special teams?
Yeah, I think it always goes hand in hand. But I will say, from the explosive part, I think a lot of that comes down to the returners. You know what I mean? And the last couple of years, I think we had some good moments with Tyler at the end of 19 and a little bit in 20, but we had some injuries there as well. So I don't think there's any change in the way we're going to go about scouting players. We've done this for a long time, and we believe in what we're doing. But at the same time, I do think that the explosiveness on special teams really does come down to your players and what you have there. So we're certainly looking to improve there, and I think we got some good young players. I think certainly on our cover teams, Ty Summers, Oren Burks, those guys are were standouts. Will Redmond was a standout for us. So it's certainly an area we'll look to address, but it always goes hand in hand.
There you go. That is Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of your Green Bay Packers. But there's a lot there. Let's do this. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get back into this and kind of go over some of the things he had to say, because I found it rather interesting. Did you find it as interesting as maybe I did? Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad you are with us. The Bill Michaels Show continues on. So interesting stuff in the last segment from Brian Gutekunst, the Packers general manager, and there's some interesting things to kind of nosh on. First of all, he says seeing guys live at the combine, that's huge, and the fact that they can't do that this year makes that job that much harder, which pretty much is an obvious statement at this point. The one thing I found interesting was there were players at all levels that opted out of last season due to COVID. And one of the things that I think was interesting about this was he had said that if you didn't get a chance to see a player in 2020, obviously you have film on that player. Okay, you do have film on that player, and you can have something that you can look at that you've seen in the past regarding this particular guy. But he said guys need reps. To be a player in the NFL, you have to come in and be ready to play and have to have your reps. I wonder if a guy opted out, if that is going to unless they're just a spectacular player and one of the top prospects, I wonder if that will then cause the Packers to look in another direction for maybe players that did play. You know what I mean? Because the specific statement was guys need reps. Guys need reps. So I thought that was rather interesting. He kind of alluded to the fact that, if you didn't play, you don't have the reps, and you're not one of those guys that we're really kind of observing, then you might be on the outside looking in without that extra, without the actual, live reps versus the film. Because he said nothing replaces the in-person looks for prospects and reps. Then he did. I did find it interesting as well when he talked about Joe Britton. Now, obviously, Mo Drayton, he's been on the staff for a while, the new special teams coordinator. But when he talked about Joe Barry, he said, really, I didn't have a lot of familiarity with him. Obviously, he's got a reputation. But, no, I didn't really know him coming into this particular situation. So you just kind of wait and see how that plays out. This was indeed a Matt LaFleur hire. Then the question was, J.J. Watt a possibility? I like the answer because the answer said we're not going to talk about players on other teams. Okay, I get it. This then gives you the out. That statement gives you the out to say whether or not you did or did not have a legitimate run at J.J. Watt. All he said was, we are always interested to see if they are a fit. And that's pretty much all he said. So he wasn't going to say yes or no or what have you, just said we're always interested. So in other words, they looked over the fence, but we don't know indeed what was stated. So he was also asked about trying to find players that fit, Joe Barry's defense and fit that scheme and such. And he said, look, we're interested in guys that can play in any scheme because you need guys who can play in numerous situations. So it's not just the 3-4, the 4-3. It's the nickel. It's the dime. It's what you're going to predominantly run. They're trying to find guys that can play in any situation. It goes back to best available player. Then he was asked about actually tagging Aaron Jones, franchise tagging, transition tagging. I thought it was interesting because he said we could. And, he basically alluded to the fact that, that's a very real possibility. Okay. And that's not something that they traditionally do. But he said there's usually better ways to go about it, end quote. In other words, we don't want to have to tag somebody if they really want to go and they don't want to be here. In other words, we'll use the tag if indeed we're going to try to maybe sign them. But he said there's usually better ways to go about it. Now, does that mean to get a deal done? Or does that mean, no, let the guy go and go find somebody else? What is the better way? But he did say, he then circled back around in that conversation and said, look, but we'll use it. If we feel that's in the best interest of winning and in the best interest of the team, we'll use it. So it started out saying, we could, we'll do that, but there's usually a better way to go about it. And it kind of the insinuation would be, do you tag them just to sign them, or do you just let them go for somebody that really does want to go hit the free agent market? And then, better ways to go about it through the draft, through keeping your own guys, whatever. But then he said, if it's in the best interest of winning and the team, we would use it. which I found that to be somewhat eyebrow raising. Then it always comes back to Jordan Love. Again, there's not a lot there that I really give a damn about, but Aaron Nagler did ask a legitimate question saying, look, you don't even know what you got in Jordan Love at this point. You didn't really get a chance to see much in him. You're not quite positive. And in addition to that, Jordan Love needs live reps. He said, look, if say after this year, when the collective bargaining agreement does come forward and the owners get that 17th regular season game and they eliminate a preseason game, that pretty much means Jordan Love has to play almost every preseason game to really understand and see what you have in this guy, right? I mean, as far as live reps go. So that was one of the things that he stated that, yeah, you know what? Which, again, if you don't know what you have in him, you better be damn sure he's the guy. He better be showing you something spectacular in practice if you can't see what this guy brings to the table. If you're going to then turn around and say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get out of this. There was some talk about restructuring of contracts and such, and then they got into the special teams. So we're going to hear from the special teams coordinator, Mo Drayton, coming up here at the bottom of the next hour. But he said, look, what makes your special team special, it's your returners. He said injuries, yeah, that'll kind of have some things to do with, your special teams. But he said, look, you're looking for explosiveness, but explosiveness equals your returners. You got some good cover guys. You talked about Ty Summers and Redmond and such. But he said, look, we need explosive guys. We need a couple of guys back there that are explosive. Tyler Irvin kind of gives you that, but you're only as good as your returner, your explosive returner. Except for when you're talking about coverage teams, and then you got to find more than just 2 or 3 guys, the way he put it. So a lot of interesting stuff from the general manager of your Green Bay Packers. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. Another hour yet to go. We'll be back right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Wisconsin basketball team has lost 4 of their last 5 games. That's after a 73-69 loss to number 23 Purdue on the road last night. The Badgers had chances but couldn't generate enough offense or get key stops late in the game. Brad Davison had 15 points for Wisconsin, which shot just 40% from the floor. Badgers have now lost 7 straight games against top 25 teams and are winless against Big Ten teams with winning records this season. Still, Nate Reavers not losing hope.
It's very frustrating. I was actually just looking at the other day. I was looking at the teams that lost, and a lot of those teams are ranked in the top 10 right now. And this league's tough, and it's super frustrating too. And you can't get some of those wins against the top teams. So, we still got everything in front of us here.
Wisconsin going to close out the regular season on Sunday at number 5 Iowa. Turn to the Bucks. Their 5-game winning streak was snapped in blowout fashion last night in a 128-97 loss to Denver. It was the biggest margin of defeat for Milwaukee this season. They ended their 8-game homestand 5-3. They'll close out the first half of the season tomorrow night in Memphis.
Hey, honey, how was your day? Well, I brought home a delicious dinner and possibly $10K. That's $10,000. That's a good day. It's Quick Trip's take-home meal sweepstakes. Try our chicken, bacon, mac and cheese, spicy chicken penny, spaghetti, and more. Buy with your rewards card, and you could win $10,000. No purchase necessary. See stores for details. Dinner, fresh from our kitchen, to heat and eat in yours. But let's be honest, they had me at $10K. The take-home meal sweepstakes from Quick Trip. We got dinner covered.
Well, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst says they could still put the franchise tag on running back Aaron Jones. He told reporters yesterday that despite them not using the tag in more than a decade, it is something that could do if it's what's best for the team. Jones set to become a free agent next month. Also, Gutekunst said that while they don't have a ton of money to work with in free agency, if they find a high-end guy they like, they'll make it work. And the Brewers back in action this afternoon against San Diego. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Welcome back to the program. Final hour of the Bill Michaels Show on this Wednesday. A really good look at the Green Bay Packers at the front office when it comes to Brian Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, and the coaching staff and such all the way down. Just to kind of get a feel for where they're at right now moving into this offseason. and just a lot of interesting discussion stuff. Eric says, does Aaron Jones want to be in Green Bay? That's the question. If he would rather play in Miami, then maybe you tag him and trade him. If I don't think that is a good look, though, for the Packers. But no, I understand that. But on the other hand, you, like Brian Gutekunst said, you're doing what's in the best interest of your team. You know, it may not all. You got to be cognizant of the players around you that may look at the team in a different light and say, hey, I really don't want to go play for them. And I understand that, but this is about winning. This is about trying to put as many pieces in place. I find it interesting that one of the things that J.J. Watt had stated was that the reason he wanted to go play in Arizona was to play with Kyler Murray. There is, kind of a – I mean, look, we know it's about the money. It's about the money and having a shot at getting to the postseason. I get that. But he said one of the reasons he wanted – I don't think it's slight – because people are saying, oh, my God, he slighted Aaron Rodgers. No, he knows what Aaron Rodgers is. He knows that. I don't think there's anything else there. There's no there. I can't way slapping Aaron Rodgers. That's not it. I think that if you're going there, I think you're trying to find something that isn't. I don't think there's any there to that, to be honest. Jackson says, does Aaron Jones mean that you would then get rid of Jamal Williams? I think Jamal Williams earned his money this past year. Yeah, if you would keep Aaron Jones around, you're not going to keep Jamal Williams as well. You're not going to pay him and pay Jamal Williams. So, and then the thing you have to would think about is A.J. Dillon would be the 2, so he would get quite a few carries, which would be a tremendous combination. Don't get me wrong. And that would mean to me that Packers are trying to push as many chips as they can to the middle of the table to say we're trying to go all in as we possibly can. But then what do you do? Because then the next year you're looked at with the same dilemma, because you've got Aaron Jones who's going to leave unless you work out some kind of a long-term deal with him, which I don't think you're going to do. But then Aaron Jones will be leaving. You won't have Jamal Williams to be a backup. You're basically down to A.J. Dillon, and that's it. And then you got to start over when it comes to your running back position. So you're probably going to reach a longer-term agreement with Jamal Williams to keep him around for less money, keep A.J. Dillon, and then let Aaron Jones go. Unless you feel that you just are going to be able to get a defense together that's going to be a real stifling defense, and you think that this is going to be your year. And if that's the case, then you go in that direction. But otherwise, no, I don't think you would do that. As much as I hate to see Aaron Jones go, and I do think they're going to miss him, I don't think you do that. So, to answer your question, hopefully that answers your question. Also, hopefully they pick up a veteran corner, inside linebacker, and D lineman for 21, and then use 3 high picks for the 3 I mentioned for 22 and beyond, since the cap will be tight in 22 as well. The cap is going to be a little bit tighter next year, but it's going to go up by at least about $10 million because by 23, if they're pushing off some of the cap increases that they were expecting originally this year, and they're going to put off some of those they're going to defer the cap decrease over the next couple of years, so to speak, then it's not going to be as wide a margin as maybe what you originally thought. So you're going to have to find a few bargains over the next couple of years. That I agree with. So Christian says, I believe the Packers are poised to make a run right now. Tell me the team to beat in the NFC. I think the team to beat in the NFC right now is probably going to be, you still got the Buccaneers, even though they're going to have to go out and figure things out when it comes to money, because they've got a lot of different players right now that are up. They're free agents, so they're going to have to figure that out. But one of the other teams to beat, in my opinion, is probably going to be the Rams. The Rams picked up Matthew Stafford. The Rams ended up only a couple of games behind Seattle. Seattle's still a good football team. But the Rams ended up with 10 wins. They had some injuries. They picked up Matthew Stafford to put them over the top. So, and their defense was one of the best in the National Football League. The best in the National Football League, as a matter of fact. So now they've got a quarterback. You pick up a couple of weapons and keep using your running back the way they have with the run game, the way they have over the last couple of years. I think they're going to be a good football team. The Rams, certainly. I don't think the Saints. The Saints have just way too many cap issues. Not the Saints. I don't even know what to make of the NFC East. I think if you put Dak on the Cowboys, because I was just Kathy asked me, what about my Cowboys? If you put Dak on, let's just say they work out a deal with Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's probably good for another win or two, which probably would have given them the NFC West, or the NFC East, I should say. But it still only makes them an 8-win team. Their defense was terrible. That's the reason Dak had to throw the ball so much last year before he got hurt, because their defense was awful. They got to fix that defense. So if they put a ton of money into Dak and they pay that man $41 million a year, you may be able to defer that for the first couple years, but you better win now, because I'm just telling you, by the time you really start to kind of feel it and think that team's going to be viable, chances are, man, Dak's going to put you in salary cap jail. And you're not going to be able to buy your defense, and you need to buy a defense. Judge says the Rams have everything for Stafford that the Lions did not. You're right. You're 100% correct. That's why I think if you had to look right now, if I had to pick my teams that I would say be leading candidates for the NFC, I still look with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just because. I mean, it's Tom Brady. Come on. He just figures out ways to win. So I'd say Brady. I would say the Rams. I would say the Packers. And Seattle. That would probably be my top 4 or 5 going into next season. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Again, 877-867-1670. Hit us up if you feel different. But if you had to go into the offseason right now, looking forward to next year, and who are the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC? Buccaneers, Rams, Packers, Seahawks, and then who? Cardinals? What surprise team might be there? It might be the 49ers. With all the injuries they had, they were 6-10 last year. They were not a good football team, but they had a ton of injuries. So, and we still have not seen where the Deshaun Watson trade rumors are going to end up, if at all. Right now, the Texans are saying they're not taking phone calls in regards to trades for Deshaun Watson, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, because if he gets traded, let's say he gets dealt to Chicago, that might make Chicago an actual team. Who knows? With that defense. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Rick says, I think Stafford is a major upgrade for the Rams. I would have to agree. I would have to 100% agree with you. Tom says, what do you think about the Washington football team next year? Washington's a train wreck. They don't even have a quarterback right now. Alex Smith is their quarterback, and I don't mean to diminish Alex Smith. I mean, it's a tremendous comeback story. But that team is they played well down the stretch. They played better defense. They were in the last, month of the season, month and a half of the season, they played pretty well. But when they needed to win down the stretch, the last 2 games they lost was, I want to say Seattle. Because they won the last game against the Eagles, and that put them into the postseason, remember. But, they lost to the Panthers, too. They lost to the Panthers. Because they won the last 5 out of 7 games. But the 2 games that would have put them over the top and just solidified it, they struggled with. But they ended up getting the Eagles in the end, and ultimately that put them into the postseason. So kudos to them. They just need more. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Chris says, aren't they parting ways with Alex Smith? They are, yeah. I mean, but right now he's all they would have. They don't have anything else. Let's go to Dave, listening to us in Hillsboro. Dave, welcome to the program, The Bill Michaels Show. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Bill.
What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, I've been saying for years, you know, you got to have some defensive people, and I think the Arizona Cardinals, because their defensive line is going to be good, and that seems to be the order of the day. Get a little coaching myself, and the Tampa Bay has been running.
Oh, I think we lost him. Tampa Bay, you're right. They've got a lot of issues right now because they got to re-sign a lot of their guys. They're losing some guys in the trenches, or at least as of right now, they've got to bring some of those guys back. So I 100% agree with you there. When you talk about the defense and what they have J.J. Watt, they have Zach Allen, they have Chandler Jones right now. They have Jordan Hicks playing inside linebacker. Budda Baker, your free safety. They've got some other guys they have to be able to hang on to. We'll see if they bring them back, but because remember, Patrick Peterson is a guy that's out there on the market. You've got a couple of different guys that are out there on the market. You've got the guy they picked up at outside linebacker, Marcus Golden, on the market. Hassan Reddick on the market. So they've got some guys to figure out there as well. But you got a good offense in Kyler Murray. Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, obviously. You still have what you're going to do with Larry Fitzgerald. Is the old veteran going to come back and hang out with the likes of J.J. Watt? They're going to come back and hang out with J.J. and put that team over the top? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Stay tuned. Got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Show on the air. We are glad you're with us. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, the new special teams coach of the Green Bay Packers. You're going to hear Maurice Drayton. He is speaking with the media, or spoke with the media. You're going to hear that conversation coming up to see one of the areas that has been lacking over the last few years, and that is the special teams side of things. You heard the discussion regarding Brian Gutekunst and his, I guess, thoughts on how the special teams can get better. So we're going to hear from the actual special teams coordinator coming up here in just a little bit. Rick says, I think the NFC South going to be a bit of a train wreck. Carolina could be the surprise team. They have a good, not great quarterback, but they've got Christian McCaffrey's going to be back and healthy. And he said, I think they have cap room. They do. The Panthers have they're $30 million under the cap. So they got all kinds of room. So you're right. They could make some moves and make some deals that if they bring themselves a quality quarterback, or just Teddy Bridgewater gets better, then you're right. With Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, yeah, that team can get better. You are correct. Mark says, how much do you think the Cowboys are going to be able to actually give Dak? I think they get a deal done, but aren't they cap crunched? Yeah, they're $19 million under the cap. And if you add $41 million, now you can obviously put some of that off. You can guarantee so much. I mean, you can make whatever you want. I mean, if it's $160 million, that's fine. You can pay Dak $2 million a year for the next 2 years, and then have 100 of it guaranteed, which means you owe him 98 over the next 4 or 5 years or something like that, whatever it happens to be. But if they get a deal done with Dak and he comes back in as their quarterback, then yeah, you would assume that this year they're going to make it as cap friendly as possible. This is from Kyle. Kyle says, what about the Ravens? Do you think the Ravens are going to be good this upcoming season? Lamar Murray had, it's LeVar Jackson, by the way. It's not Lamar Murray. Had a down season coming off of his MVP campaign. I think the Ravens are going to be good, and they have some money to spend. They have a little bit. I think they're under 20. They don't have 20 million plus to spend, but I think they've got maybe 15, 16, 17, something like that. So they've got some money to spend. They can go out and pick up a couple of pieces. They're decent defensively, but just offensively this year, they were just bad. And LeVar Jackson was just not good. And I've thought pretty much since I saw him play, even during his year that he won the MVP, I get criticized for this, but I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's a good runner. He reminds me a lot of a guy like Justin Fields. Justin Fields playing for Ohio State. He's a good runner. He's and against bad teams, he's going to be able to throw the football and do some good things. But against good teams with tight coverage, you can't put it in a window. He's a better runner. He's a better guy that's on the outside, scrambling and picking up first downs and moving the sticks. And that's what he does. That's okay. You can make a great living doing that. But eventually, as we've seen with running quarterbacks over a period of time, the league will catch up with you. They'll figure out ways to punch you in the mouth. Hey, Unit, aren't the Buccaneers under the cap? Yeah, they are, but they've got a lot of free agents. They're like 10, 12 million bucks under the cap, but they got a lot of guys that are coming up that they're going to need to spend some money on. So they're going to have to figure that out. And they're not on some of the guys that they have, like in Dominican Sue and company, they're not going to give them multi-year deals where they can start deferring money for the next couple of years. They're putting those eggs in. Then again, they're going to put those eggs in that basket right now, but you're not going to have that team go from Tom Brady, a championship, and then all of a sudden it's a rental where you're just going to go back and, go back to nothingness for 3, 4, 5 years. And that's the other thing. And who had this before? I gotta ask this question. Who had this before? Where is it? Ray said, I would give up the next 4 years of nothing to win a championship this upcoming season. Thoughts? Packers fans say that now. You have to then wonder where they're going to be in a year or 2 or 4. If let's say the Packers go all in and they win it, that's great. Do you give up the next 3, 4 years of salary cap hell to be able to say you won it this year? Now, here's the other question, because there's no guarantee you would win that. But here's the other question. Let's say you do go all in and you spend the money and you're pressed against the cap and you went all in on all these free agents that you're going to have to kind of disassemble this team and you're going to have some cap issues after this. Let's say you go all in and without a guarantee, you don't win a championship. And then 3, 4 years after that, you're strapped. So, and you're not going to win one those next 3, 4 years. That's where if you guaranteed a championship, I think most people would say I'd take that. But you can't. And if you don't win a championship, and then you go 3, 4 more years because of the cap hell you put yourself in, Packers fans will be screaming. Because then they will not have sniffed a championship in 15 years. While you've had some success, you will not have had that championship in 15 plus years. And I think to most, that's unacceptable. Now, what will pain you is 2014 and 2020. That will pain you because 14 they should have won, and this year they should have won. And they didn't. And that's going to be something that sits in the gut of every Packers fan for a long, long time to come. Long time to come. That's almost as painful as 4th and 26. The infamous game down in Philadelphia, the 4th and 26 game. It's almost that painful. Rick says Packers fans who say things like that have not lived through the 70s and 80s. That is because we are give it to me now society. Give it to me now, give it out of the fast food window. I want it hot, I want it fresh, I want it now. No problem. But if you don't, and you don't get it now, and then you got to wait for it for 5 more years, you are right. That is a painful way to go. Painful way to go. 100% agree. Bubba says Jones is a great guy and deserves to make his money for him, his family down the road. But if the Packers are holding on to him for only 1 year because they can, I think it's a punk move. I obviously want him on our team, but only if it's fair. Bubba, they're going to pay him $8.5 million or $8 million. So he's making his money. It's not like he's not making money. And if you do it for 1 year, you do it for 1 year. It's about winning. If you feel that he is an asset and you are close to winning, then you do it. If you feel that you can get by without him, you don't do it just to do it. It's not about a punk move. It's not about a punk move. You do what's necessary. Teams do it all the time. The Packers are the team that has not done it in the longest period of time. Every other team in the National Football League has done it since 2011. The Packers have not. Jim says, go ahead and sign Jones because we all know the Packers are not signing free agents, period. Adam says, by the way, as a Brewers fan, I'm leveraging 4 years for one championship. Hell yeah. Now, see, that's a whole different case right there because the Brewers have not won a championship yet. So I'd do that in a heartbeat. I do that in a heartbeat. What happened in like, growing up in Cincinnati in 75 and 76, you thought that Big Red Machine was going to be dynamic for a long, long time. And then free agency came. And Pete Rose left, Tony Perez left, things began to split. Ken Griffey left. The pieces started to fall apart. Joe Morgan left. And then you were left with a team of the 80s, which, had a couple of moments, but for the most part wasn't that good until you got to the late 80s. And then in 90, finally went wire to wire and they won a World Series. They have not been back to a World Series since. Think about that. So a team that has a lot of history when it comes to championships, as a matter of fact, I think they have 5 World Series under their belt. They have not been back to a World Series since 1990. Since 1990. But as a Brewers fan, you've never won one. You never had that opportunity. Well, I take that back. You had one opportunity, 1982, which I would, as much as I love the heritage and the history that is the Milwaukee Brewers, and I love the guys from 82. Every time you get a chance to talk to them, whether it's Gorman, whether it's Gumby, whoever it happens to be, Robin, whatever. It's time, man. It's time to make some history and to get yourself back into a World Series. You can't keep living off of 82, man. You can't just keep pointing to 82 going, well, back then. No, 82. You know how long 82 was? Holy God. You are coming up on 40 years next year. 40 years next year since that team went to a World Series. You can't do that. 40 years, that's a lifetime. Or the majority of a lifetime for a lot of people. Can't live on that anymore. Got to get there. Got to push those chips to the middle of the table. Going to get back into Packers special teams coach, Maurice Drayton, the new special teams coach. You're going to hear from him as he spoke to the media yesterday. Hang in there. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels shows next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We are glad you are here. We wrap up the last half hour of the program today. Thanks to everybody for chiming in as well. I know we don't do a ton of phoners, which we can, but we get a lot of people that chime in on the chat, on the streams, email-wise as well, over on Twitter. Plenty of ways to stay in touch with the program and touch base with us. So thanks to everybody for hanging out. If you would like to get a hold of the program, just write it down, 877-867-1670. Put it in your phone, and that's the way to get a hold of us. You can find us on Twitter, at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels on the Facebook fan page. Go to facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. You can track us down on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch as well. YouTube and Twitch, it's just simply Bill Michaels, Michaels. Maurice Drayton is the new special teams coach for your Green Bay Packers. Spoke with the media yesterday and had this to say. So take a listen.
Go ahead with Mike Spofford.
Maurice, congratulations on the new job.
Hey, Mike.
What do you, now that you're taking over the Packers special teams, what do you want opposing coaches when they're studying and preparing for you guys? What do you want them to be saying about Packers special teams?
Well, they're going to say we're a good, sound, fundamental, and technique unit. My background is in education, so I'm a teacher. I've always believed that coaches have to be good teachers, and teachers can be great coaches.
Ryan Wood.
Hey, Maurice, obviously you spent the past couple years as an assistant here under Sean. In what ways do you think that you're different than Sean? How will this be a different approach?
Yes, I've learned a lot under Sean. First of all, I consider Sean a friend. My approach, once again, is from the technique, fundamental, basis. We're going to start there. We're very pragmatic in what we do. So right now, our staff, Renee Stewart and Connor Lewis, we're doing extensive studies to help us decide what we're putting in our playbook, how we plan on using it, and things of that nature. So it will be very percentage-based in our decisions and what we do and the techniques and fundamentals that I spoke about.
Dave Schrader.
Maurice, congratulations. Matt said to us about 40 minutes ago that your voice was needed leading that unit. In what ways do you expect your voice to have an impact on these guys? Are you a rah-rah guy? Are you a point-by-point, very detail-oriented guy? What type of voice are you lending to this unit as its leader now?
Well, we're very detail-oriented, but at the same time, we're very excited about ball and coaching and teaching. Learners learn many different ways, and we teach to the learner, not to the group. So we're very specific in that manner.
Mark Daniels.
Maurice, are you a believer of having 2 or 3, really core special teams players that may or may not get on the offensive or defensive field, but guys that are going to be every phase big producers for you? Is that needed?
That is a special teams coach's dream, but we are a program. So whatever the program designates as necessary for us, we will get the most out of those individuals.
Matt Reynoldson.
Maurice, Matt is very complimentary of your energy and what you bring as far as just the attentiveness and energy on the field. How does that resonate from a teaching perspective with professionals, with guys that have been around? How do you think your energy kind of meshes with the way they go about their business?
Well, it's real energy, and guys can feed off of real energy once you invest in them. Yes, this is big time business, but this is still a relationship business. So if those guys understand where I'm coming from, if they understand that I understand their why and I'm going to help them achieve their why, they're going to be excited about it because we're helping them reach their goals.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Mo, I talked to Tom McMahon about you when the Packers hired you as the coordinator. He said a lot of good things about you, and you guys had some real good units in Indy. What did you take away from your time with him?
Oh, wow. So Tommy is like my big brother in coaching as far as it comes to special teams. And he gets most of the credit for what I know and my approach to the game on a daily basis. So when I spoke to you earlier about being very pragmatic, about being percentage-based, when I spoke to you earlier about statistics and making decisions based upon that, that's all Tom McMahon.
Rob Domofsky.
Hey, Mo, so your plan obviously sounds really sound, but I've been doing this for 24 years, and every special teams coach that's come through here has basically said the same thing, yet it seems like it's really hard to do, and the Packers special teams have been, inconsistent at best. Why is that, and why is this so hard?
Well, if you go back all the way to 1992 when Nolan Cromwell was the special teams coordinator, all the way to Sean Miniga, I believe it's been 10 coordinators, correct?
That's probably right. Nolan was here when I first got here.
Okay, and we've only finished in the top 10 one time in the last 15 years under Mike Stock, correct?
I remember Mike Stock. He was definitely a hardcore guy.
So what I'm trying to answer for you is this. We, as special teams coaches and a phase within the Green Bay Packers, we're a victim of our overall program success. We are so blessed and so lucky to have had over that time frame 2 gold jacket quarterbacks. People live their whole lives and they never even sniff a gold jacket quarterback. So when you have that, a lot of times you don't have to play complimentary football. And if you don't have to play complimentary football, then special teams typically is on the lower end of that.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Mo, congratulations on this opportunity. Getting to know you a little bit through Joe Witz. I don't know if I've seen a resume like yours and the dues that you paid to get here. Can you kind of put into perspective for us what this opportunity, after how hard you've worked, means to you and what you intend to do with it?
Well, I'm very excited for the opportunity, one. And even before I got the opportunity, there would be some days I'm standing on that practice field and I look over at the stadium and I say, wow, I'm truly blessed. So I do understand that. But at the end of the day, we cannot be mesmerized by it. It's time to roll up our sleeves and put the work in.
Tom Silverstein.
Hey, Mo. So when you're interviewing with Matt, you are also talking about what happened on the field last year. And there were some, moments that I'm sure you weren't totally happy with. How do you break down what you guys did and how you can improve on that?
Absolutely. So obviously right now we're going through that process of looking at some of the things that we have done that we wasn't so happy with. And in that process, we're finding ways, and I don't want to get into detail, we're finding ways of how we should bring new techniques to the table. Some of the things that we're going to institute and implement will help us, in the gray area, so to speak. And I believe we'll get a greater return. Not I believe, we will get a greater return because of that.
Mike Clemens.
Hey, Mo, what was the point in your career as a young coach that made you say, I want to be a special teams coordinator? That's where I think I can help the team the most. Was there a turning point there for you, Coach?
Absolutely. I was a football player at the Citadel. I was a walk-on, and I was just trying my best to get on the field. And a coach named Al Seamerson, who is a Wisconsin native, played wideout at the University of. He put me on the field as on punt return, kick return, then it was punt and kickoff. And I knew then that I would have an opportunity. I'm small in stature by nature, and that was a way for me to get on the field. I've always been a blue-collar guy, raised by a son of a Marine turned itinerant minister in the Methodist Church. Mom's an educator, school teacher, so we've always been blue-collar. And to me, special teams is blue-collar.
Ryan Wood.
You guys over the last 2 seasons have really cut down on the penalties, which I know was really important to do, but the explosive plays have just been missing. How much of that is scheme and how much of that is personnel in terms of getting more explosive plays into that phase?
Well, schematically, Sean and Ron have had great schemes. It's twofold. It's twofold schematics, and it's what we call the Billies and Joes, getting them in the right places. Not the actual schematic portion, but once they get in the right places at the point of attack, helping them come up with these techniques that I spoke of earlier to pull the trigger, so to speak, to get the ball carrier on the ground. And we feel like we have a nice little arsenal of things that we've discovered that where we can be better to help these young men out.
Matt Schneidman.
Mo, what did you think of the seasons JK and Hunter had last year, and where do you see areas for growth with both of those young guys?
Well, the beauty of it is I call our room where we are the truth room. So we're going to tell the truth, and some things I cannot say here, but they both know that they have to be more consistent in the things that we need them to do to be successful. They have a prescription that we've written for them to work on. They also have their own personal, what I call kick doctors or specialist doctors that they're working with, who I've fostered a relationship with. So they're getting better, and they will be better. And they understand that their backs are against the wall.
Bill Huber.
Going back to what you're answering about Rob's question. So how do you overcome that gold jacket thing you're talking about? How do you overcome that? Maybe you're not going to get the complimentary phase. How do you maximize what you've got?
Well, I tell people this all the time. My whole life I've done more with less. Okay, so we will maximize every God-given ability that those individuals have. Now, how are you going to do that? It goes back to the why again. You invest in the why. It goes back to the individual. It goes into getting inside the mental makeup of the individual as well. So I think we're going to be fine in that area. I promise you this, we'll get every athletic ability out of a God-given talent out of the individuals that step on the field for us.
There you go. That is Mo Drayton, Maurice Drayton, the special teams coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. Some short answers. some interesting things that he said when you talk about the individuals and such, and that they are a victim of a gold jacket quarterback. In other words, we keep winning and we're not drafting high, which means we're not adding continual depth. And I've said all along, you can find terrific players. Doesn't matter where you happen to look, what round. We've seen really good players come in many different rounds. It's just about whether or not the scouting department's able to track them down and find them and make them impact players. But look, I agree with them, because a special teams coach, you are asked to take the non-starters, the young players, mold them into something viable, and then elevate that level of your game to an impressive level, in the sense of, top 10, top 15, to become a true asset. Now, you become a true asset if you've got a very special returner. That's what Brian Gutekunst said. But it's hard. It's as a special teams coordinator, man, you're only as good as the clay that you're given. So man, it's an unenviable job, I guess is the best way to put it. We're going to wrap things up. Coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin like the Bill on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
High fives, Wisconsin.
Gina Della from Pella, what's the station?
Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin is just named NARI's Distributor of the Year.
That's a big deal.
You're not kidding, but there's more. The International Builder Show just named Pella's new Easy Slide Operator Best Window and Door Product of the Year.
Another Pella innovation that eliminates the repetitive cranking motion on casement and awning windows with an easy slide.
A real blessing for those with hand and wrist issues.
Why crank your windows when you can easy slide, right?
But there's still more.
Oh, you mean based on the 2019 Consumer Survey on leading national brands, that Pella is rated #1 for highest value, highest quality.
Yes, but there's still more. Now get 5 years, no interest, plus 5 months, no first payment.
Pella now, pay later. High fives all around.
But only through March 31st. Set your free consultation today at PellaWI.com/radio or 855-PELLA-WI.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Final segment of the Bill Michaels Show before we get out of here for this Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow and continue to take a look around not only the rest of the NFL, but as free agents begin to become free and more we hear are getting cut or told they'll be let go. But then again, also, we'll look at some baseball as well, and we're creeping in on March Madness. We'll start to talk a little more bracketology also, so hang in there for that. Interesting comments from Michael Silver. I just retweeted it. We'll have it tomorrow on the program, but he talks about why he likes Joe Barry so much as the Packers defensive coordinator. We'll get into that discussion a little bit as well. But a lot of you chiming in over on the chat. This is from Chris, who says, Dan Maurice getting me excited about special teams. And Rick then says MSN says the Packers are favored to land Von Miller. That would, I'm going to say clickbait, because he wants to know, is that clickbait or is that real? I think that's going to be clickbait. What was the cigar that you mentioned earlier? I'm going up in God's country this weekend, playing some softball on a lake, grabbing a couple for in between games. The Macanudo M. It's just a black and red wrapper with a scratch-sketched M in it, and it's called the Macanudo M. You can find it at Tobacco Outlet Plus Grocery for the most part. I mean, I know that there's some other places around that carry it, but Tobacco Outlet Plus Grocery does carry it. It's a really good cigar. Really good cigar. And people that normally don't like the smell of cigars, if you're near them, will enjoy this. And that's the one thing about it is, like, when I've done this at Wednesday Night Live a couple years ago, and gatherings, people kind of flock around it. They think it smells really good too. So not only is it a smooth cigar, but it's something that's somewhat of a crowd pleaser for those that are in your area also. So keep that in mind. Steve says, hey, Bill, great to hear you back on the air. Any thoughts about adding neutral density gels to your doors in the background? Oh, I see what you're saying. If you're watching me on the stream. No, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, we are going to have, the office is going to be changed around. Working with a company right now that does workspace environments and changes things. So we will, I'll be changing things in that way. Okay. So there you go. Be changing it up. So you won't have to deal with what's behind me, I guess is the best way to put it, So that'll be changed relatively soon. Coming up tomorrow on the program, like I said, we're going to talk more about we'll talk some more NFL in general. More cuts are being made. More players are getting word that they're going to be on the open market relatively soon. We are only, I think a few days away, 12, 13, 14 days away from more cuts really happening in greater fold. And then we are 11 days away from the unofficial allowable tampering session to go on, and only 14 days away from the actual signing of free agents, when free agency really begins to take place. So we're not that far around the corner from teams reshaping and remolding themselves. This is from Nick. Nick says, how much do the Seahawks have to spend? That's another team that's going to be looking to add some pieces around Russell Wilson just to keep him happy after the offseason they have had. They don't have a ton. They're about at the break-even point. I think they maybe are 2, 3 million, 4 million under the cap. But they don't have a ton, but they've got enough to be able to go out and restructure a few things, cut a few guys loose, and add some money. So they too can help bolster their team. So that's not that far off. Art says, I hate to say it, but I am a longtime Bengals fan. The Packers are my second team. As a Bengals fan, do you see them getting any better when Joe Burrow returns next year? I like Joe Burrow and what he did. I thought Joe Burrow was a breath of fresh air. The problem is he plays for an organization that cares more about making money than they do. I mean, put it this way. The Bengals keep saying they're going in. They picked up Joe Burrow, and they're still close to $40 million under the cap. They are never going to press up against the cap. They just don't do it that way. They just don't do it that way. So if you're a longtime Bengals fan, that's good for you, but I pity you. I said the day I left there in 1999, they will never win a championship because their owner cares more about making money than he does about winning games. So we'll see. And this one's from Jesse, who says, the 49ers, do you think they're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo? I think they end up keeping Garoppolo. I do. We'll see what he does when he comes back from injury, and they've got a full complement of guys around him next year. So there you go. Well, that's quick. That does it. Time for us to get out of here until we talk yet again tomorrow. I want you to go out and enjoy a little bit of the warmer weather, sunny skies, low winds. Things are melting. Pick up the poop, for God's sake, if you got an animal in your yard. How are we looking? Time for us to go. Have a good one.